Crossover. Oh, killer crossover.
Just crossover. It just crossed him over nastily.
Another victim to the crossovers. Cross him up and sit him down.
All right, time for the crossover. It's brought to you by Everlow Concrete Repair in Omaha at everlowconcrete.com.
What?
You're looking at me, buddy.
You were looking at me. I turned over to you, looking at you.
Looking at you, looking at
You got to be
me.
careful over there.
Are you okay?
I don't know. I don't think I had my cranberry juice this morning.
Cranberry. Oh, okay. I'm not going to make a joke, but
I made the joke. Don't worry about it.
I love the movie The Departed.
Yes.
That's all.
So you'll have to learn that.
Sorry, we had the balance all screwed up over here. What? You need to go up? You need to go up a little bit?
I'm fine. It wasn't screwed up. It was perfect. I mean, maybe screwed up for you. Okay. I'm good here.
All right.
I'm good here.
All right. Okay. All right.
There you go.
Here we go.
Am I giving away the title as the worst, like have the worst hearing?
Well, you do blast that sucker.
Yeah, it is loud.
Nick Ball.
There are times where I can hear like myself talking through your headphone. Like there's a little bit of an echo because you have, first off, for someone who's as professional and as accomplished as you are, the fact that you use the Apple earbuds is crazy to me. The fact that
am I the only bud guy?
I will
now because Connor switched.
I will level with you.
Yeah, you did. You had the buds.
I don't love. I've said this, but I think it's preferable. I don't love when they cover my ears. It makes my ears sweat.
What the earbuds?
Yeah, no,
someone's
the
volume's on.
Probably me. Sorry. The whole like when the whole thing covers my ears.
Yeah.
And then if you have something like stuck on your head tight for so long, it kind of gives me a headache. Let's say I don't love wearing hats, but I have to wear a hat because I'm bald.
There was a guy.
It's a bad situation.
There was a guy at ESPN. He's a super talented producer, and he does hosting on the weekends and fills in when guys can't come in. He's young. He has a headphone bald spot. Without a doubt, him wearing the headphones for as long. I mean, he's wearing his headphones like 5-6 hours a day. There is it's creating a bald spot on the top of his head.
We have an announcement. Are you ready?
Oh my God.
Now everyone has been ready for this, but here it is officially. August 28th. Kansas City, Nebraska, Cincinnati. Matt McMaster seems unexcited about this.
I wanted it. I get why they can't do it on a weekend because of the fact that the Kansas City Royals are over there and the parking situation would be an absolute nightmare. And they're not going to make concessions for the Huskers in order to get it done.
August 28th is indeed a Thursday.
I would have liked it to be on a Thursday. That would have been a really, really fun weekend trip.
You mean on a Saturday?
Yes, I would have liked for it to be on a Saturday.
Lunch in Kansas City on Thursday.
I don't know why don't we do this?
We're all going.
Why don't we do
Bobby Witt Jr. is coming on the show.
And then the next day we'll just stay and do a recap and then we'll go to the Tigers game.
Heck yeah.
Oh.
Is that who they play?
Yeah, that's a Tiger weekend. Royals.
Do they have a casino there in Kansas City?
Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
It'd be your opportunity to go to the K, which is
yes, I need to go.
Which is
you've never been to the K?
Across this way.
It's across the street from Air. I knew it was. I've never been to KC, ever.
That is the Royals off day.
Yes.
And then they will play the Tigers on
I'd love that.
Friday night, and it is a Bobby Witt Jr. bobblehead night.
Wow.
Or it'll probably be Cole Reagans against
dude.
Tarek Skubal. There'll be a playoff spot on the line. This is huge. The Royals will just be coming off of a 3-game sweep of the Chicago White Sox in Chicago.
Hell yeah.
And it'll be perfect.
Into the weekend. It'll be, I will say,
the Royals. Patrick Mahomes will be there.
88% Nebraska fans.
88 is a good estimate.
I'm gonna go 93%.
93. Now, how do we do this math?
So it's 88 of 78,000.
Yeah.
I mean, but
well, maybe the game might not be sold out.
Is it just a glance?
I think the game will be sold out. If the game will be sold out. I think a lot of people are going to take it as an opportunity to go down
Stadium
there.
Capacity.
If it was a weekend, there's no doubt.
76,416.
Loudest stadium in the NFL, Connor.
Loudest stadium in the. I heard this from various different sources. 76,416. Can you get 50,000 Nebraska fans?
Well, okay,
so let's do the math. So 76
Cincinnati's home game.
7,600 is 10% of 76,000. So if we're doing 90%, you got to do 9 times 7. That's 63. And then you have to do
We're doing new math.
Keep
here.
going.
600.
This is new math.
600 is
curious too.
50. So you'd have to have 69,000 in order to get to.
That's too many thousand. But that assumes that there's going to be 76,000 people at this game, which I do not believe.
Let's see if my head math was right.
I'm sure you're.
I was right. 68,400.
But
I was right there.
I just don't think it's going to be sold out. So like, why don't we go off of 50 or 60,000? Go off of 50 or 60,000. Could we get 40 to 45 to 50 Nebraska fans traveling down I-29 all together on Thursday?
Think about.
No, we're going Wednesday.
Think about Cincinnati's. I mean,
the parking lot's probably open at 6 a.m. You guys could be there.
We could do it. We could do it right from
did
the.
it say when the kickoff is? Because it's Fox will have the television rights.
Yeah, it's gonna be
Raiola against Sorsby.
Let me see.
I think in the release it said the Big 12 will determine the kickoff time.
No way.
They'll be like at 10 o'clock. That sounds good.
Big 12.
Yeah, no, there's no on
It'll be an
the
afternoon
on the
game.
official graphic. There's no time. It just
Thursday,
says,
11 a.m.
That'd be terrible.
I don't think so.
That'd be terrible. No, it'd be a good game. Cincinnati's.
How many? So they'll open it up to season ticket holders for each program tomorrow.
Oh wow, that quick of a turnaround.
How many? I wonder if Cincinnati will even sell their entire allotment. How many of them will give it back? And then the general public, it'll go on sale on Wednesday at 10. So
shoot,
it'll be like this is going to be like a Taylor Swift Ticketmaster situation.
Oh, it's going to crash
all over again.
Okay, so I saw the Keith email, and then I've just received the season ticket holder email.
Okay.
Let me click on this link.
Who bangs the drum?
I don't know, but you have to buy tickets through Chiefs.com.
So are the people were the indie tickets already on sale? Did those already get sold? No. So there's not a reciprocity or anything like that. Okay.
No.
So I wonder what the financial agreement is here for Cincinnati.
It's interesting
because it was going from Cincinnati to Indy.
I would
now to KC.
I would assume they are going to make most of the money off of this.
I would have to guess
because they're giving up everything.
Well, essentially too.
They're like, we have a sweet opportunity to take advantage of Nebraska fans and make them give our athletic department a bunch of money.
Well, you have to factor in is like it was essentially going to be a home game, or it was going to be close to a home game for them.
Yeah, but it would
have been closer. It would have been closer to 50-50. Now this is going to be an away game.
Yeah.
This is an away game.
That's right.
This isn't neutral site. If you are Nebraska, you are at home.
Nebraska last played Arrowhead in the 2006 Big 12 championship game.
It was cold.
A game that Matt McMaster knows a lot about now. He's been watching YouTube.
Yes. I've been learning.
Cold.
Yeah, it's cold.
We'll have quizzes.
Many chilly nights.
End of the week quizzes. What do you think about our tree?
I'm pro Christmas tree, if that's what you're asking.
Yes.
I love Christmas.
I do love the tree.
And I just am curious about the acquisition of the tree.
So here's
I just didn't want us to be sort of like the Grinches of the office.
Here's what happened. I'm still trying to earn my stripes. I'm still trying as the new guy at 1620. I'm still trying to prove my worth. And I think that Gary knew that. And Gary knows that if he says that it's for the betterment of the team to do something, that I will do it. So he took advantage of me and my aggressiveness and said, hey, you won't go out by Cynthia's desk grab the tree and bring it in here. And I go,
I won't.
I absolutely will. So then I ran out.
You have glitter on your face.
I do. I got glitter everywhere. It's bad. It's a little tinsel time. And then I
went
like
to a Kesha concert.
I was like a Tiny Tim, and I had to put the star fell off.
And it just fits.
The star fell off when I brought it in here. So then I had to go back outside, grab the star. I think there's a video of me on the YouTube putting the star on the tree.
One big great overreaction this year. I had the great idea to put that giant background in here. And then Peter, you were there that night. And then we quickly realized that the poles don't fit in here.
We brought it all the way in here. And we're like, this isn't going to work.
It's too tall. It's too tall.
The effort was there.
I think we kept it up somehow during the show, but it was it was like half.
Oh yeah, we used those as like weights.
Yeah, we hung it up on there.
Yeah, that's what we did.
I'm making my big red overreaction debut on December 28th.
Oh,
yes.
Oh, is this? Oh, I love this.
This is officially official. So I was voluntold. I was voluntold
But
to do it.
you
I want it. I want it.
You want
Yeah. It's going to be a blast.
He wants it.
So it'll be me and Bishop, BROR.
John Bishop?
Me and that's what I've been told.
John Bishop is not somewhere on the East Coast.
No
that
clue.
Weekend?
Me and Johnny.
No, he's not.
Well, wait till people find out what the parking's going to be for this game.
What do you mean?
Ooh. Well, it's already $50.
Oh
to
my
park
God.
At Arrowhead.
Do you think
But
it'll
if
be
you want to
less?
be so for a Chiefs game,
Yeah, right. This
not sure what it was for KU. So for a Chiefs game, it's $50. You can get closer. It's $150.
Oh my God.
Is there
Royals game is 20?
is there
Royals game is I believe 30 now.
It is?
I'm pretty sure.
I bought it online.
I tried to not
Actually-
pay for parking as much as possible. Go through various channels and avenues.
Well, we at Wrigley and at Soldier Field, parking is either extinct in Soldier Field unless you're a season ticket holder. At Wrigley, it's like they got people who own those lots and own those areas, so you have to pay them personally. It's not like owned by the Cubs. So like you park at like a gas station or you park in front of an apartment or whatever, they can get
best not taking a car.
It can get really, really pricey. Well, the thing is that the train runs right to Wrigley.
Sure
so like
does.
a lot of people just take. Is there public transit to Arrowhead or
No.
They
There
can't
is
take
car.
a bus. But
there's not a red line?
There is I-29 and
There's
there's
there's no red line.
The streetcar doesn't go all the way out to Arrowhead.
There's no Metra. There's no.
But maybe by the World Cup.
You don't have a Skokie Swift over there?
Maybe they'll do something over
So parking's gonna be $50.
$50.
I think that's
Get
just.
ready.
Hey, look, you just go in a van.
Go
with-
Chiefs.
Go 5 of your friends. Go in a van, $10 each. Easy as that. You take your own car down there. You park it at the hotel.
It's special. It's different. It's cool.
You pull straws of who's going to be the DD,
And
then
it took 1 year of Nebraska playing a regular Saturday opener just to go back.
We're like, no.
Just to go back to Thursday or something odd and something different.
at least it's-
I
at
don't
least-
know which side I am on.
I
on
don't-
this.
For me, if it were like, I get it.
I think I maybe like Thursday.
I get the
don't know.
Friday thing, having a Friday home game and having a short week and everything like that, like in the middle of the year, that sucks. And Dannon was very right in saying, "Hey, we're not doing that again."
I don't know. I kind of like the Friday night.
The third, it's week.
one more time.
It's week 1. It's the first week of the year. It's no such thing as a short week. You've had months and months to prepare for it. So,
Yeah, it's not that.
If anything,
It's
I'm
just having it's having an important game against a real life opponent on the untraditional time maybe doesn't quite matter as much, but Nebraska's they're it's a big game. It's a big game.
I
right?
like it for the national landscape though. Like that is going to be the game that people are watching that night. There's not going to be a ton on that's garnering as much attention as that
Great.
is. So
Great point. Let's look at the 2025 master schedule and see what else is going on week 1.
I don't imagine there's going to be any other game on a.
There has not been anything moved except for that game.
All right, but no, that's not true. So it has some other things going on.
Oh, I see. Minnesota always plays.
Minnesota will always play. They play Buffalo.
But other than that,
Alabama State, UAB.
Oh,
App State, Charlotte.
does Nebraska-Cincinnati get bumped for Scott Frost's return to Central Florida?
Ooh, probably.
Jacksonville State at UCF. Who will be the coach of Jacksonville State? Nobody knows.
I think so because that's going to get more view. I mean, how many people really like? There are people who care about Scott Frost's return to UCF, but I think there are just more people in general who are just care way more about Nebraska.
That has ESPN Plus written all over it.
What?
The UCF game?
UCF Jacksonville State.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Because Buffalo
Or maybe
Minnesota will be
ESPNU.
BTN.
Maybe put on ESPN Telemundo.
Not a great slate.
No, terrible.
ESPN probably does have a game. Maybe they don't have Big 12.
Here's a possibility. Notre Dame and Miami. Notre Dame and Miami is week 1, and I believe that I've heard some chatter about that being a potential Thursday nighter.
I've heard Sunday.
Okay, so
that standalone Sunday game.
You could kind of move it whichever way.
Are those?
you wanna
Is that
move
a
it.
home and home for the next 2 years for Indy?
I don't know. I would assume so.
Or does it count as an ACC game?
Yeah, that's what I was.
Who's in what conference? I have no idea.
Well, they have that six game deal.
So the other Alabama, Florida State, LSU, Clemson, Syracuse, Tennessee,
Texas, Ohio State is week 1 also.
Jeez, why is the week 1 schedule so loaded?
So this is a great excuse to move it to Thursday night.
Yeah,
the week 1 slate
actually
upon further review is loaded. So,
and you're only halfway through at that point too. Texas, Ohio State, ND, Miami. Those two
South Carolina, Virginia Tech is already set for Sunday in the Chick-fil-A kickoff game.
Oh, what's
potential Heisman favorite?
What's Ireland?
Norris Sellers.
What's Ireland this year?
Farmageddon.
Yep.
Really great.
Iowa State, K-State.
They were,
but that's week 0.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's week 1. That's my bad. I love the Aer Lingus Classic.
You love the Aer Lingus Classic?
I have multiple Aer Lingus Classic memorabilia.
Did you go?
No, I didn't. But I just bought some stuff. Like I have a list on my phone of niche sport things that I want to own. So I want to have like a man cave, but I don't want to have like your basic ass like jerseys and balls and whatnot. Like I want weird things that people look at and laugh at.
Great take.
And so I have a like one of them on there is the Northwestern helmet from the Aer Lingus Classic, where it was just an Irish flag.
Yeah.
And it's just like on there, and then the Notre Dame jerseys with like the Gaelic like crosses.
You
like,
have
on
a
the
whole
shoulder
Notre Dame Irish helmet?
No, I don't. I don't.
These are things you want.
These are things that I want.
Gotcha.
So it's like I have here. Let me.
I would like an onside kickback.
Yeah.
Can we
here,
get
let
that?
me
I'd
niche
like to
things
put that
I
on
want.
my shelf.
So I have
actually, you know what? Probably for the best.
This is for my.
But in the moment, that would have been a nice win.
Yeah.
That would have impacted the rest of the season.
This is for when I'm older. Niche things that I want in my sport basement: Northwestern Irish helmet, a signed Jeremy Langford Michigan State jersey.
Awesome.
Jeremy Langford, Bears running back. Cam Taylor Britt signed jersey. Jason Taylor White Dolphins jersey. Oregon Stop Cancer jersey, and the ND Ireland jersey.
You have a list.
That's my list.
What a list.
It's my full list of just weird.
That is a list of random things.
Weird random things. Like I want people to be like, why is there an Oregon Stop Cancer jersey in here? And it's pretty cool.
This is going to be great. This is awesome. And you still get likely Gus Johnson.
No.
Joe Klatt.
No.
Joe Klatt.
And you know
the
what?
All-American girl, Jenny Taft.
So prepare yourself, because you know what the storyline will be.
Buckeye.
Dylan is going to Pat's house.
Dylan
my Lord.
There will be content.
NCN is
much
looking
content.
at so much content.
So this is a Cincinnati home game. So they'll probably come out where the Chiefs come out.
I thought it was neutral. It says on the schedule neutral.
So do Gus and Klatt, will they do Thursday night in Kansas City and Ohio State, Texas, which will obviously be big noon Saturday?
Oh, I'm sure they will.
Okay.
Yeah.
That definitely hasn't worked out.
We'll hop in
poorly.
the car and drive south on 35.
I'll never forgive Big Noon for bringing in Eddie George, like it was like the spring game when Ohio State was playing Nebraska, and just spent 9 minutes of the second quarter talking to Eddie about Ryan Day and Jeremiah Smith. Well, the Huskers are actually in a competitive football game. It was the most disgusting and blatant disregard and disrespect toward a team I've ever seen on a broadcast.
Wow.
You would have thought it was Ohio State red versus Ohio State white with Eddie George in the booth.
Talk it.
That is.
Let him know.
Disgusting.
I'm ready.
Pat,
I cannot wait to go to Kansas City.
You think Pat will be at the game?
McAfee?
No. Mahomes.
Let's go.
Who's to
Do you
say?
think that there will be multiple visuals and pictures taken of Dylan and Pat next
Well,
year?
he's got to get his. He's got to get healthy. You know.
I would hope by next year
Well,
he's
you never
healthy.
know.
If not,
You never know.
that's a hell of a tackle. Yesterday. That's a tackle that has ruined my franchise.
I would think that Patrick will be there. Yeah. I would think that Patrick, Travis, Taylor, probably not Taylor.
Probably not Taylor.
Can't get her.
But if Gary, oh my God,
Brittany.
if Taylor was there, Gary Sharp would melt right then and there.
Does she have anything on the books for next year?
No, she's
I don't know.
clear.
Hey, I've already seen her at Arrowhead
All right.
in a non-football game.
Yeah, but we'll get ready to have her at her first Nebraska game. She'll fall in love. Maybe she'll find a Another Nebraska. Maybe she'll
Be
look at
another
Matt
reason for people to
McMaster
hate
and say,
Nebraska.
whoa, hang on.
Wow, wow, wee, wow.
Wow. What's going on? I like these Nebraska guys.
That game that she got introduced was the Bears game. And it was the Bears-Chiefs game. And it was
What was the score of that game?
It was 34-3.
What was the score of that game?
It was a lot to a little.
Look it up.
It was a lot to a little. I think it was
34-3.
I thought
No,
it was,
look it up. Look it up. I don't know about the 3. But yeah, just tell me what the score of that game was.
I'm getting the preseason score.
It's okay.
Yeah, we don't keep track in the preseason. We don't win Super
We
Bowls.
do.
in the
That's
preseason.
that's the only time we win games is in the preseason. 41-10.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
It was the worst. Wait. I called it.
31 points.
I called it the worst NFL experience of my life because I went into that game being like, you know what? What if we competed here? I'm not saying what if we won. I'm just like, what if we competed here? What if we look good? What if we bounce back?
What if?
And then the entire broadcast was Travis Kelce touchdown, pan over to the booth. Nice catch. Pan over the booth. Everybody freaking out about Taylor, talking about Taylor. While I'm sitting here wallowing in despair as my team gets their butts whooped.
This is your
I was
life.
at that game. The weather was ideal. It was a really nice weather day.
Lovely.
Mid-September. Chiefs were struggling a little bit. They were 1-1 coming into that game. People were doubting them.
Where are we going for lunch? That's the only thing I could think about. Where will the barbecue be coming from? When the Connor Happer show, and where we're doing a crossover.
Yeah.
At 10 o'clock on Thursday, August 28th, which barbecue establishment will bring us a giant spread of barbecue?
We got to call Derek Walker.
Derek Walker, the basketball player.
He's a KC guy. He would give Derek Walker's KC guy, and he would give
there are many KC guys.
There's many KC
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah,
And
but
he
we
would-
could-
and he
we
would,
could call Derek.
And we had KP on. We had Kemp Pavelka on Husker Hour, and they were going down to Kansas City to I don't know who they were. I think they played K-State in Kansas City or something like that, or whatever. They were going down to KC for a game, and KP was telling us on the air that Derek had all the barbecue spots.
That's good.
That Walker was giving him all the
I would
places
think
that
truckers,
duly noted.
that he
I
had
would
to go.
think truckers know barbecue.
That's true.
Derek
Derek
Walker
Walker
is a trucker.
Derek Walker, the trucker.
Yeah. No, KP
The
was
truck
revealing secrets.
Entrepreneur.
He was revealing secrets that Walker apparently had all the know about where to go and where to eat barbecue in Kansas City. I bet Tom Chattel would be a great source as well. That guy knows barbecue.
He knows Kansas City too.
I think we know barbecue.
I
We've been
think
to
Connor
Kansas City
Happer is
enough.
pretty good
Yeah,
at it. Yeah.
I have no idea. I love barbecue. I just don't know where to go for
Well,
it.
we'll take you. We'll take you
Have
along.
have you been
No,
past on 29 South?
no,
Okay.
Really?
no. I go from I-80
All right.
over here.
So-
I go straight here. I go straight home.
We're teaching.
Pro tip: when you're in the passenger seat driving down with us to Kansas City in late August next year,
Yeah.
you have an hour window where you could sports bet on your phone.
Yes.
All right. Driving through Iowa, and then all of a sudden you get to Hamburg, Iowa, shuts off. All right. You get to Missouri, shuts off. Then you stop at the Rockport Casey's.
Okay.
You grab some corn nuts or some sunflower seeds, and then you continue on your travels. Then
And when we get into Missouri, we crack open the beers, right?
you could do that. And then you drive back. What is the Platte City QT going to look like on Friday, August 29th?
God. It'll be packed so full of Nebraska license plates.
Yes, just like it is after every Royals game.
Is that like a really big quick trip?
It's a normal size.
It's so big, they built a Waffle House next to it.
Yeah, that's true.
Really?
There is a
Yes.
Waffle House
I
right next
love
to it.
Waffle
There's a
House.
McDonald's and a Quick Trip kind of share a parking lot with a road in between.
So we'll do the whole thing.
Packed all the time.
We'll do the whole thing. We'll go to the Royals game, whatever, and then you drive
Do it
back
all.
afterwards, and then you'll see everyone who was at the Royals game who is heading back to Omaha or Lincoln.
Yeah.
And
You're bound to know somebody.
They're stopping at QT. They're stopping at QT. Can't wait. This is gonna be.
What's
sweet.
your go-to, Sharpie? What's your go-to gas station snack? What are you grabbing at a gas station?
Usually not nothing. I don't go off the roller. None of that.
Fair enough.
I'm a drink guy.
Jeff says, "Sorry, I doubt Derek Walker is going to bring a bunch of Creighton guys barbecue." That's you guys, right? Creighton guys.
No. I'm not a Creighton guy.
Oh, well, I thought you were. You were on the Creighton station.
I'm not a Creighton guy. Not a Creighton guy.
You guys were tweeting about how despondent you were after the volleyball game last night.
I'm a big fan of their head coach.
All right.
I look, I wanted them to win. I wanted Creighton to win. I wanted that in-state game. And I'm telling you right now, they blew that. They blew that third set.
Are the Royals home on that Wednesday?
No, they're at Chicago.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, maybe Matty Mick takes a week off and travels with the Royals. You know, I just
great time to take a week off.
Ask if there's a spot. You can hang out with the team.
Just take a week off to schedule it right now. And I'm just traveling Royals fan.
Pro tip:
Master.
have a kid August 1st.
Yeah.
And then you could take the next 3 weeks off, and then you come back
and
the season starts.
Is it too late for that? I think it's too late for me to have a kid. I mean, if I'm having a kid August 1st, I currently don't know about it.
You better hustle. That's all.
Do you think that the Royals, now knowing that the Huskers are going to play on Thursday, KC night will be now on a Friday?
I wonder.
Keep all those Nebraska fans.
No, because they're already doing Bobby Wood bobblehead that night.
What are they doing on Saturday?
Hawaiian shirt giveaway.
Okay.
Big draw.
So it'll be like
Massive
the Husker
draw,
night will be
Hawaiian
back
shirt.
in June or July.
Sunday,
most likely July.
Sunday against Detroit, Pasquatch handmade by Robots vinyl figure giveaway.
What an incredible giveaway weekend.
What
every
Peter,
random item.
Peter, what does that mean? What does that mean?
What is that giveaway?
What does that mean?
I don't know. The description of it sounds insane.
The first part, it's a Vinny Pasquantino giveaway.
Something with him, yes.
A vinyl?
And it said it was a vinyl?
Handmade by Robots vinyl figure.
Oh.
Is there
I bet that's
sometimes they have pictures. Is there a picture?
There is. He looks like a little it is like a little doll, he's a little Pasquatch.
AI is taking over, man.
But a robot made
we're
this?
Screwed.
It's it's like a pop. Well, what's those little
the Funko Pops.
Funko. Looks like a Funko Pop
with
type
the big
deal.
heads.
This is what it looks like.
You could leave for the Sunday
Like
game.
these, I think it's not. I don't think it's plastic. It's like knitted. Look at
Oh,
handmade by robots.
Yeah.
Well, this is interesting.
Okay.
This is not what I was expecting.
I might skip that Sunday game.
Yeah, we could head home.
Might hit Andy's custard on the way out.
Oh, love
See?
Andy's custard.
Now we're introducing you to Kansas City. My man said last week, is the K still standing?
No, I said that ironic. I know it's
Not
still
for
up,
long.
but exactly. That's why I was just like, what's the up?
They still play there.
Actually,
What's the
I don't know.
update on
It might be for long.
What's the update on there? Because I know that there's a big old whoop-de-doo about whether or not it's going to be Kansas City, Kansas, or Kansas City, Missouri, and it's a whole massive deal. And Missouri wants them, and Kansas wants them.
They might move
Big
to
deals
Omaha.
for the
This seems to have
economy.
slowed down, hasn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, they were talking about it on
They hit a bit of a
Kansas.
snag.
I was up for a job in Kansas City before I ended up going to ESPN Chicago, and so I was listening to Kansas City radio for like 3 weeks in order to just to keep up with the show, to see what they're talking about, to like get ready of whether or not I got that job. And like for 3 weeks, they had at least 2 segments and like interviews on that damn stadium and like the whole breakdown about it.
What?
It was crazy.
Yeah. I don't.
And nothing
We'll see
happened.
what happens.
Who would have thought, man? Nebraska football is going to be playing at the home of the World Cup. That's quite an accomplishment.
That's right. I don't think that Aer Lingus Stadium has ever hosted a World Cup match.
True.
No.
I don't think so.
I think
An Ireland World Cup would be delinquent.
Chris writes in before we go. Does Mahomes join Dylan Raiola for his pregame Mahomes warm-up? Does he do the jump thing? Does he do the jump scream thing with Dylan Raiola? That would be cool.
Yeah, I hope not.
You could at
That
the
would
very
be
least-
Does
really.
he
that'd be
join
tough.
Dylan for the coin toss while Travis is on the other side as a Bearcat alum?
Does Patrick Mahomes?
Do they do a stare down?
Do they not shake hands?
Oh.
Whoa!
Hey, do you think Nebraska is going to shake hands with the Boston College captains?
No.
Oh
I
my
think
God.
They're going to double down after all this. They're going to double.
Do you think? Do you think when they go to midfield, the Yankees are going to sprint onto the field to get them off of the emblem?
Hey, why don't they do
Great
what baseball?
question.
Hey, why don't
Yeah.
they do what baseball does after games? You know, where everybody comes out of the dugout and it's just a line.
Yeah.
Why don't they just do that? Both teams, show of sportsmanship.
I love sportsmanship.
They just cross the field at the 50, and everybody's like, high five, high five, high five.
I love sportsmanship. It's great. Maybe
This
they'll do
is a sportsmanship radio show.
that. It is.
Who? I'm trying to see if they are going to dub this a nickname game.
Oh, like
What?
a battle at the Arrowhead or something like
Yes.
that. Yeah. I haven't seen any branding on it.
Oh, that type of. Okay.
It's just at Jiha.
The Arrowhead Classic.
Jiha Field.
The annual Arrowhead
Tell me
Classic.
you're not a Chiefs fan by telling me you're not a Chiefs fan.
Stupid Jiha. What is Jiha?
Meet me at the
anyway?
At the Jiha.
I think it's based in Overland Park.
What is Jiha?
This explain to me. It's a tech group, I believe, or a medical. There's a medical angle to it. A medical supplier
is a self-insured, not-for-profit association providing medical and dental plans to federal employees and retirees and their families.
That sounds thrilling.
Jiha.
Yes, but
we're going to Jiha.
There is nobody that walks in there and goes, "Well, I'm at GEHA Field."
I'm Jiha.
It's Jiha Field at Arrowhead Stadium.
That's right, Jiha.
Cool. It's GEHA.
Jiha Field.
Jiha.
That's what we call it. We're from the Midwest. We're from Nebraska. We like to say Jiha.
I thought I was going to Arrowhead. What's this place? Jiha Field.
Jiha Field.
Are we in the wrong place?
That's where Patrick Mahomes plays.
Exactly. All right. Well, you guys have a great afternoon.
Yeah, we're taking pictures.
Too.
Oh, really?
Oh, it's picture day.
Yeah, photo shoot day.
You got a different shirt?
I do. Yeah. I got it under here.
Okay. Cool.
I got my True Classic tee.
You were
That's tight around the arms.
The glitter's going to show really great in the photo.
No, I'm taking off this sweater.
You were sweating through your sweater.
Was I?
Yeah, check that out.
Oh, I got pits. I'm a sweater man, which is why you say 87 degrees.
Ooh.
I freak out. I have a panic
Is that a
attack.
problem?
Oh, I have a sweating problem. Yeah.
He's heating up from his own takes.
Yeah. I have a problem, and you say 87 degrees. I had a panic attack. I was like,
Oh God.
I would not survive. When I have a wife and we go on a honeymoon, we're not going to Mexico, all right? Unless there's elite air conditioning.
We're gonna go to probably Branson.
Sounds like a good place.
We're gonna go to Arizona. It's a dry heat. It's a dry heat. Guys. It's a dry heat. It's a dry heat.
That's Crossover Power by Every Level Concrete Repair in Omaha, everylevelconcrete.com. It's Monday. We'll start things off next.
It's the Connor Happer Show. Are we sure we want to do this?
Could you, make an announcement that we're ready?
It's the Connor Happer Show on 1620, The Zone.
All right, welcome in. Happy Monday. It's the Connor Happer Show here on 1620 The Zone and on 1620thezone.com. Connor Happer and Peter Krenzer with you today. Peter will be here for 80% of the week. 80%, Peter?
80%.
That's a B, depending on which grading system you're on, right?
I think so, yeah.
Maybe
seems right.
At one point in time, it was a C. I have no idea, but it's pretty good. So Peter will be here, and Joey will pick up the slack on Thursday this week as Josh chases down another national championship. He and he alone will try to win Iowa Western yet another.
Now, I saw that that game's going to be in Texas this year, and yes. I thought it was usually in Arkansas.
Yeah, I think they mix.
Are they going to rotate the sites a little bit now?
I think they've been mixing it around a little bit. Here's Matt.
Matt is back to get the tree.
Yet again, forgot his water bottle inexplicably. Also, we appear to have lost an ornament
down
off the tree. So here's what's going to happen with this tree. Yeah, it's in Texas, some random city that seems very, very difficult to get to. So here's what's going to happen during the show. I'm going to get blamed for stealing this Christmas tree. Because somebody is going to find out that we have this tree in here, and the office is going to be like, hey, why is this tree so close to you? And I'll be like, I don't know. This was a morning show situation that I have nothing to do with. But yet I'm the one who's caught red-handed sitting next to the tree, being near the tree. I do like it for ambiance. I mean, look at the YouTube right now. It's in the background. It's great. There's a great message on there, even though it's kind of, there's no the 1620 The Zone logo is kind of gone there, but that's okay. We can work around that. It's Christmas. We got to get in the mood. We got to get festive around here. All right. So welcome to the show. Happy Monday. Today we'll talk to Mike Schaefer of Husker 247, as we normally do at the bottom of the 11 o'clock hour. Sam McEwen at 1. And I felt as if the volleyball was so it was kind of the story of the weekend yesterday, just across the sport, with obviously Nebraska punching its ticket to the Final Four and Creighton falling just one set short last night at Penn State. We're going to talk to Lincoln Arneal, who covers volleyball, not only for Huskers Illustrated, but for Volleyball Magazine as well. He watches a whole bunch of college volleyball just around the country. So we'll get obviously we'll talk plenty of Nebraska in that interview as well. So he will be along at 12:25 today. That is the lineup, powered by the Rivalries at John Higgins Weather Guard. Want to hear from you all? 402-951-1620 on the 42 Degrees of Source hotline. You can call or text that number. Tweet at Happer Show, at Connor Happer on the JTech Construction Zone Twitter feed. You can email Connor, Josh Show at 1620thezone.com, but don't email. You can still email Josh. Sure. I think he'd be happy to still receive the emails. He's not really doing anything today. He's just, I think he's on the plane probably right now. So if you still want to send Josh an email, that's great.
Yeah.
Josh Show at 1620thezone.com, the Equitable Bank Zone inbox. And we say good morning to the YouTube streamers today. Whether you're joining us on 1620 The Zone TV on YouTube or on zonetv.live, we appreciate it. Plenty of other things to cover. The transfer portal, the Heisman Trophy, the volleyball, Nebraska sending Wisconsin to the moon in volleyball, the basketball with both of our local teams in action this weekend, some Matt Rule shift in philosophy stuff that I want to talk about today, and some other stuff that happened in the NFL yesterday, including or I guess over the weekend, including an offensive player getting fined for illegal use of his helmet, and yet again another offensive player dropping the ball before they run into the end zone.
I don't want to talk about it.
Peter can attest to this greatly. Why does this keep happening? I don't know. We'll investigate during the show.
I don't know.
Toasters, the Pop-Tarts Bowl, daylight savings time. All of it will be covered. And of course, the news that just came down about 40 minutes ago that Nebraska is headed to Kansas City to open up the season in 2025. against Cincinnati, not Indianapolis, not Cincinnati, not Lincoln, but Kansas City is going to be the ultimate location for this game, which I believe has changed locations 100 times now. But I think they found the right one. Should be a lot of fun in late August. Also, it's college football playoff week. I know we got to readjust here. We're used to taking so much time off before the really important bowl games and college football playoff games and whatever happened. We do have playoff games this Friday. One playoff game this Friday, and then a trio this Saturday that will be going up. A couple of those games will be going up against the NFL. So that'll be interesting to sort of watch, not only for the football, but to evaluate the trends in the sport as well. All right, we are off and running today. There is plenty to get to, but as always, we'd love to hear from you all. Give us a call, send us a text. We're here throughout the entire show until 2 today, and we'll be back after this on 1620 The Zone. All right, once again, in case you missed it, Nebraska will open its 2025 season in Kansas City at G-H-A Field at Arrowhead Stadium. A game that was against Cincinnati, a game that was previously scheduled for, I think originally for Cincinnati, and then
moved a few times, I think.
And then for Indianapolis, and now for Kansas City. Also a part of this deal, in case anybody cares about this stuff anymore, you can update your future schedules. Nebraska and Cincinnati also announced that they have changed the date of a previously scheduled matchup at Memorial Stadium. The teams will now meet in Lincoln on September 10th, 2033, which kind of seems far away, but I mean, I guess it almost is 2025, so I don't know. That game was previously scheduled for the 2032 season. It's now 2033. Just kicking that Cincinnati can down the hill even further. I'm pretty sure. So will Nebraska and Cincinnati play each other in the 2026 season?
Because I don't remember.
This must have been a four game deal. So 2025 they're playing at Kansas City. 2026. No, they're not on the schedule. That's the year that Nebraska is supposedly playing Tennessee, even though I guess I have doubts as to whether that game will happen regarding scheduling and things of that nature. They're not scheduled for 2027.
Nope.
They're not scheduled for 2028. They are. Oklahoma's back on for 2029. That's cool.
I think in 27 or 26 that I just looked at, there's a spot open. Maybe they'll get it one of those. I don't know.
Right, 2033. Cincinnati, 2034 and 2035, you already have Oklahoma State on the books. Who knows what conference Nebraska or any other team will be in by then? Maybe they'll be in the NFC by then. We'll see. But Thursday night to open the season in Kansas City. That should be a ton of fun. Honestly, dead serious about that. That's going to be awesome. Got an email from the Equitable Bank inbox from Zach. Subject line, another great weekend for the Husker Athletic Department and the state of Nebraska, Zach says. Nebraska basketball smoked Indiana. True. I have some things to say about Indiana in a second. Nebraska volleyball swept Wisconsin for the third time this season to punch their tickets to the Huskers' 18th Final Four appearance, 7th in the last 10 seasons. True. Creighton basketball lost, which Zach enjoys, and Creighton volleyball lost, which must be a new thing that Zach enjoys. Once again, I thought we were all kumbaya on the volleyball thing. I guess it wasn't really headed that direction. Would have very much enjoyed a Nebraska Creighton.
Oh, I was
Final Four batch on.
I wanted that so bad. That would have been so fun.
It would have been so much fun. But it was not to be. So let's talk about the volleyball for a couple minutes before we take a break, and then it's something we'll talk about, of course, with Lincoln Arneal and probably our other guests as well, because it was certainly the talk of the weekend. We'll start with Nebraska. So this is yesterday. I am doing the women's basketball game in Lincoln, and we were wondering earlier in the week, after they set them up with that 2:00 on ABC. You know, you got to put Nebraska on ABC if you got the opportunity to, but we thought 2:00. Oh boy. Because Nebraska, the women were set to play at noon against Chattanooga. And we're like, and I asked, I was like, are you guys going to move? Like, are you going to move the game? Are you going to move it to like 6:00 or something like that? And they're like, no, kept it at noon. And halftime rolls around and the crowd just starts, then end of the third quarter hits and you could just see people kind of leaving, which is fun. So I didn't get around to seeing the game until they were probably in the third set, I suppose, because I was driving home. But listening to John Baylor, and this is John Baylor, the longtime voice of Nebraska volleyball, who is incredible. He was remarking the entire time about how he had never really seen the Devaney Center like that, like shades of this, shades of these all-time great matches. He even talked about how it felt like it was the Coliseum in there, which is a great compliment. Because it got, how loud and hot it got in the Coliseum when Nebraska used to play there, because it was small and it was intimate and it was just a little bit different. And I think Nebraska and everyone else thought, gosh, we might lose that if we move to this bigger Devaney Center. They didn't. They sell out every game, and it's the hottest ticket in town. But you only get so many of these games in a calendar year where you just get these unhinged, like, you're on the verge of something, bloodthirsty, like there's a rivalry aspect to it as well. When we look back in the year in review, Nebraska was lucky enough to have 2 of those games on their campus this year. You don't usually get 2. Like, you usually get, like, when you look back at the year, you say, man, that was the one. That was the one. And regardless of whether or not you win the game, that was the one. And Nebraska just so happened to win both of those games this year, against Wisconsin yesterday in volleyball, and then against Colorado in football back in September. Special team, special environment. Glad to, Lexi Rodriguez always gets her flowers. But like,
the praise yesterday was particularly high.
Yes. But
well deserved.
It was unglued in there. Really, really cool, and a great send off. Because I think Nebraska fans, after sweeping Wisconsin twice this year, they probably felt, all right, well, we're gonna. This is the perfect way to end it. We're playing the perfect team, and this is the perfect way to send us to the Final Four. And it was, and it all worked out that way. It was dominant for all of about for basically the entire match, except for maybe the first half of the first set. I mean, it was kind of soul crushing for Nebraska volleyball, as they tend to do. So Wisconsin, off to the moon. See you later. All my homies hate Wisconsin. And Nebraska volleyball is into the Final Four. So I want to take a couple minutes and maybe extend this conversation into the early part of the next hour here. Josh sort of texted me this last night that kind of got me thinking. And we could talk about Creighton volleyball and all that team has accomplished this year, but their run and short of the Final Four and short of a matchup against Nebraska. And, once again, I want to talk about Reassessing and Kendra Waite and their careers and what that program has become and is going to become. But quickly here, is losing in the Elite Eight one of the worst things that can happen to you? Is like, and I'm not talking about like, oh, well, would you rather lose in the Elite Eight or go 0-35? Like, no, that's not what I'm talking about. Say Creighton has 2 losses in the Elite Eight over the last 3 years of their flagship programs, and they're gut wrenching. If you pair that loss that they had last night at Penn State along with the San Diego State loss in the Elite Eight from a couple years ago, it's genuine. And people do this because it's hyperbole or whatever. It's genuinely hard for me to come up with like tougher to swallow losses. Because you're right, like you don't get anything for it. You get to say that you went to an Elite Eight, but that's after the dust settles, right? Yeah. Because we remember Creighton's run to the Elite Eight in basketball a couple of years ago, and we say, oh well, they went to the Elite Eight, and now it feels nice. But in the moment, and especially for volleyball and that team, they felt like that was the team, and I think everybody felt like that was the team. Not that they can't return to that, but it felt like the team to be able to break through. And then to respond after losing the first set, and then respond after losing the third, and just not quite get it going enough in the fifth. That is a tough one to swallow. You played well enough, you were good enough, and it's the same thing as the San Diego State game from a couple years ago. You played well enough. You definitely were good enough to be there. You definitely were one of the 4 or whatever best teams in the country. But you get left on the doorstep of getting to the real, because it changes when it gets to the Final Four. It's cool when it gets to the Sweet 16. It's cool when it gets to the Elite Eight. And Creighton could always say that they're one of the 8 teams left. I mean, they were one of the 5 teams left standing, right? They're probably the 5th best team in college volleyball this year, but not ultimately nothing to show for it in the Final Four. Tough to swallow. Can't remember too many tougher ones than like those two right there. So maybe we could all commiserate together today. What are some of the worst losses you've ever experienced? Because those are a pair of tough ones right there. So once again, more volleyball with Lincoln Arneal, and we continue that conversation when we come back. It is Monday on the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone. right, welcome back. It's 11 o'clock here on the Connor Happer Show. 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com. What's up with this? We got sunshine and like halfway decent weather. I didn't feel the need to wear a gigantic coat or a stocking cap this morning. It was kind of nice.
Yeah, and I thought it was weird because I woke up and it was sunny out, but I got a text from my mom saying it was kind of slick on some areas. I'm like, wonder why that was. It was a little frosty, a little frosted over this morning, but I don't know.
By the way, if you were driving, if you are here in our metropolitan area on Friday and driving around town, I hope you weren't, because seriously, I don't think there were that many people who made it to their destinations unscathed, whether it be a bump or whatever it might be somewhere.
I had a friend
Just
stuck
don't
in
go.
the I-80 disaster.
Oh my God.
What should have been a 45-minute drive was a 6-hour endeavor.
I mean, we've had ice like storms, but it kind of snuck up on us a little bit, and the conditions were just right. Oh my goodness, that was not a fun thing. Well, it was kind of a fun thing, to be honest, to watch over social media. But the whole time I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, I hope I don't know anybody that's in one of these car wrecks somewhere, because there's hundreds of them throughout town. And then on Saturday it was still like that, or maybe this was I get my days mixed up on the weekends. I have no idea what day it is. And then it was foggy going Saturday into Sunday as well. So hope everyone.
Yeah, we didn't get any sun the next day.
So I at least have been delivered a nice slab of red meat here from. It comes to us from Instagram. Peter, are you familiar with Instagram?
I am.
Okay. You just what do you got on there? You got a bunch of pictures of your hedgehog?
Well, I used to be on there. I'm no longer on there because of whatever they have going on at HQ. Couldn't get my account back activated.
Really?
So it was a whole thing. It was a saga.
So we're in purgatory still.
I was accused by their system of having the bot where you like buy followers.
Oh no!
I don't know what I most certainly do not have that, because I did not have nearly enough followers to justify such an accusation.
It's a witch hunt.
It was very strange, and it was out of the blue. And then I got it reactivated, and then they just kept deactivating it. And I'm like, okay, I'm washing my hands with this.
Jeez.
So I haven't been on there in like almost 2 years.
Okay,
now.
so you wouldn't have seen this.
But I do know how it works. Like, I know the layout.
You wouldn't have seen this, but and to be very clear, I would not have either. But our recruiting guys, they gotta check what's going on IG. You have to. You got to see where the kids are at, and what they're doing and what they're IGing about. They're not tweeting. They're rarely tweeting anymore. They're doing IGs. And
I have noticed that it's kind of shifting over there.
So Tim Verkes of the Rivals Network and works for Nebraska Rivals. Does a great job over there, by the way. He was perusing the IGs this morning, and he saw Marcus Davila. Marcus Davila is a quarterback transfer from Purdue. He's in the portal. Everybody from Purdue transferred, by the way. So he was in the portal. A guy who was pretty highly touted coming out of high school, out of Midland, Texas, threw for 3,300 yards and 30 touchdowns in his senior year, and just went through his redshirt year at Purdue and is now in the portal. Well, it was discovered on IG that Marcos is making a visit to Nebraska. How is this discovered? Well, I'm sure maybe somebody had heard about it, but then checked out the IG. So Marcos took a picture from the passenger seat of his car, and he tagged the location that he was in, and it said Lincoln, Nebraska. Of course, you want to tell me, hey, this is where I'm visiting right now. I'm in Lincoln, Nebraska. He was not in Lincoln, Nebraska. He appears to be on Cummings Street on the north side of Charles Schwab Field in downtown Omaha. Maybe he thought he was in Lincoln, Nebraska. I don't know. But it's another win for Omaha. That once again, the recruits fly in. They probably have to go to Omaha because unless you're from like Atlanta or Minneapolis, you definitely can't fly into, or Denver, I guess. You definitely can't fly into Lincoln. But Marcos got off the plane. He's like, I'm in Lincoln, and where he actually was on about 11th and Cummings Street in downtown Omaha. So once again, win for the O, win for Omaha. I bet that's probably what they tell them. I bet that's what the recruiters at Nebraska probably tell the kids when they get off the plane. They say, welcome to Lincoln. And they look at the beautiful downtown, the rising skyline, the beautiful home of the College World Series. And they say, this is all right here in Lincoln. This is right here at your fingertips. Lincoln looks a lot like downtown Omaha these days. That's all I had to say about that. Anyway, Mike says, sup, players?
Sup, players?
I don't know, maybe there's a shout out to Omaha. All right. By the way, when I asked the question before on worst losses, here's a couple of the things that I got back. So Venmo Chris is a Packers fan. 2014 NFC Championship game was brought up. 2009 Big 12 title game. Both were levels of pain made me not care about sports for a while. Absolutely wrecked me. I'm just saying, I don't like those two Creighton losses in the Elite Eight. If you are a Creighton fan, those are ones where you sit there for. Now, luckily the game last night was late, and so you got to just go to bed, and hopefully you forget about it as much as you possibly could.
Kind of a weirdly late start time for a Sunday, especially on the East Coast.
Yeah, I know. And then they had like some weather out there too, so there wasn't a full crowd at Rec Hall last night. And then, but I'm pretty sure the Elite Eight game where Creighton played San Diego State, I'm pretty sure that was in the afternoon. So you just had to like sit in it all day long. Or it was in the afternoon, maybe late afternoon. You just had to sit in it. You just had to sit and wait all day long, and the feeling just didn't go away, and you had to just swim around in it for a while. Not fun. No. At least in this case, that is a loss. At least in this case, you got to sleep on it. But that is the kind of loss that will hurt you for a long time. All right, welcome back on a Monday, the Connor Happer Show here on 1620 The Zone and on 1620thezone.com. Once again, if you missed it, Nebraska football will open their season next year in Kansas City at Arrowhead Stadium on Thursday, the first Thursday of the season, August 28th against Cincinnati. We'll keep refreshing that one throughout the show. Elsewhere this weekend. So I think we went in a little too far with the Travis Hunter stuff, guys. Not that we gave him the Heisman. I think he deserved the Heisman, but it was weird what the narrative and what the conversation became on Travis Hunter versus Ashton Genty for the Heisman Trophy over the last week and a half, 2 weeks. I mean, really, I guess through the back half of the season as it really became a 2-horse race with those two guys. We went way overboard with the Travis Hunter stuff. It became like this thing. I don't know, like whatever circles you guys are in. So I don't know what spheres of influence, but all the things that I was hearing around here, and it's a lot of people who have a general distaste toward Colorado, obviously. But you guys should know better than anybody, Nebraska fans, that Travis Hunter is awesome. Travis Hunter is an incredible football player, certainly the best player that Memorial Stadium has seen this year, and probably over the last several years. But the conversation became like, no, you have to give it to Genty because and Genty, kind of led this charge a little bit because it was his route to maybe winning, that snaps aren't stats. I mean, he definitely started the conversation, or his team or Boise or whatever it might be. Once again, I think that's from their perspective, a PR campaign that's probably worth fighting. You're trying to find an angle somewhere. But then all of a sudden it became this thing about how what Travis Hunter is doing is actually not impressive, or I don't even know what the argument was, but it was stupid. You guys are adult enough, even though you're bleeding red and you're Nebraska fans and you hate Colorado with every fiber of your being, you guys are adult enough to realize that Travis Hunter is an incredible football player and an incredible athlete and a dominant football player. I mean, hell, he was even dominant in the Nebraska game. Yes, and I know you'll point out, well, it took he had a business decision on Dante Dowdell's run or whatever. Like, I don't know. I didn't see that very much for the record, but I know people were pointing that out earlier in the year. He's checked all the boxes. He is, you don't throw to his area on defense because an incredible player on the ball. I mean, he had over 100 receiving yards still against Nebraska, even though Colorado didn't do anything against Nebraska, or maybe 90. I don't know what his officials. I don't know what the actual stat.
It was close.
It was 90 or 100 in that game. But like that guy was incredible, and I loved what the Heisman was this year, which was a couple players who weren't from the SEC or the Big Ten, and that weren't quarterbacks, and it was those two kind of going head to head. But I don't like how. I mean, maybe it's more of an example, an illustration of how we argue in America these days. But like, I don't feel like it needed to become what it ended up becoming, which is like trying to take down Travis Hunter. Pick your guy. If you like Genty, then you like Genty. Say you like Genty. That's great. I prefer Genty. Awesome. Or say you like Travis Hunter. I prefer Travis Hunter. That's awesome. The other two, and Hunter won it. I think people were maybe frustrated about that. I'm not sure. But I love that I love the race was a running back from Boise State and an all-time athlete. Like, seriously, that's what Travis Hunter is. I think we'll look back in however many years on him, just like we have with some of the best athletes that have ever played college football. Wow, he was doing that. He was playing every snap on defense and every snap on offense. I'm happy that Travis Hunter won the Heisman. If I would have had a vote, I probably would have voted for Genty. But it certainly doesn't make me mad that Travis Hunter won the Heisman. You guys need to learn how to argue better these days. You don't need to take him down. So I don't know, man.
He did indeed eclipse 100 against Nebraska. 10 catches, 110 yards.
110.
So average of 11.
He was really good at that game. Kenneth says he's really good at playing a lot of snaps. I'll give him that. Nah, man. Like he's really good in those snaps. He definitely plays a lot of snaps, but he's like the best player on the field for all of the snaps that he plays. And people were like, well, he's not even the best player on his team. No, he definitely is the best player on his team, guys. He definitely is the best player on his team. He is better than Shedeur Sanders. He is more, I think he's more impactful than Shedeur Sanders. Like, Shedeur is really good. He's going to be a top draft pick in the draft. And those two having a connection is obviously like undeniable. And so, yeah, you could play the game of, well, what was he without a quarterback? Well, you just take away a quarterback entirely. They would have found ways to get him involved. He is the most impactful player on the field anytime he's on the field, and that's why he doesn't come off the field. You can't throw his direction on defense. If you do, watch out. And if he gets the ball on offense at all, watch out. You don't think without a quarterback they'd manufacture ways to get him the ball? You don't think he'd probably just play a little bit of quarterback if he could do that? As like, that's going to
throw it to himself.
It's all right. That is. Oh, I find the argument that we were having. Sorry, I need to take a drink there. I found the argument that we were having on him to be super, super weird. And I definitely didn't understand it. Here's Joe in Vegas on Twitter. My argument is Travis Hunter didn't deserve to win it because Hunter deserved to win it because he played against Power 5 teams in a Power 5 conference where the Boise State running back played the worst conference in college football against crap competition. But I'm also one who doesn't think Boise State deserves a bye in the playoff, and I don't think a non-Power 5 team should be in the playoff. But that's just me. And they don't. Okay, so you're saying that Travis should have won it, and for the record, he did. He did win it. And so we got a YouTube comment here from Sal. Wait, why would you have voted for Genty, Connor? I just prefer awesome running backs. Like if those two are on the same plane, like that guy sort of, I mean, it's the same argument for both sides. That guy sort of single-handedly, taking Boise State to where they are. And it's a good team. You could make the case of single-handedly, I guess, for any of these guys because they all had incredible seasons. But I love that. Like I love that's so it's just a preference thing more than anything. But I like that we had that argument this year. I like that we had a couple players from different backgrounds and different environments. And I still didn't watch it though. Did anybody watch it on Saturday night?
I did not.
I didn't watch it.
I was taking in the UNO hockey game, but
I was watching Creighton.
Yeah, I was having a little hockey night.
It was on a little bit before, and then I was kind of flipped over there, and then I turned it over to Creighton.
It was just kind of nice to have a Heisman contest this year where it was pretty like 50, like
seriously
before we actually knew the results. It really could have gone either way, and I don't really know the last time we had that. Where it
closest voting it's been in a while, and then Travis Hunter becomes the only player to ever play at an FCS school to win the Heisman Trophy. I think people saw that and they're like, "Wait a minute, Colorado's in the FCS?" No, he just used to play at an FCS school. So I thought that was something that everyone should be able to live with. Travis Hunter winning the Heisman Trophy. In fact, I'm quite okay with. I'm quite happy with it. I think that's a good representation of the game and of the year in college football. And yes, Colorado did fall short of the college football playoff, but I'm Team Travis Hunter. I'm with him. I enjoyed all the stuff coming out from that side this weekend as well. All right. It is Monday here in the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone. We still have a lot to get into today. A couple things that happened in the NFL that I want to do. We'll update, of course, Nebraska in the transfer portal. We'll check in on both of the local basketball teams. Also, definitely not political, but daylight saving time became a topic this weekend.
More so than the usual chatter?
Well, there was a certain somebody who did a tweet about eliminating daylight saving time.
Oh, did I miss this?
I think you did. There was a proclamation that daylight saving time is going to not happen anymore.
Interesting.
By the way, I have heard this throughout people talk about this all the time. They're like,
it's an annual topic.
We have to get rid of this. I thought you guys were joking. I thought you guys were kidding. You really want to get rid of it? You really want to make it so it's light at 4:55 in the morning in the summer? That is ridiculous. And gets dark at 7? That is horrendous. That is a horrendous idea. Or the opposite, or so maybe you could take it as, hey, we want to get rid of daylight savings time, or we want to extend it forever. I actually appreciate that it is the way it is. Right? Like I thought you guys were joking. Just because you don't like turning the clocks back for that one day in March and going to work all groggy in maybe it's after the NCAA, the first weekend of the NCAA tournament or something like that. And we were like, oh man, lost an hour of sleep. I'm really going to have to catch up on that all week. And then people all of a sudden take that to the next level. We need to change this. I will abolish daylight savings time, or I will extend daylight savings time forever. Guys, it's okay. All I know is I don't want it to get light at 9 o'clock in the morning in the winter time, which is right now. We're among the longest days, the shortest days of the year right now. I don't want it to get light at 9 o'clock in the morning. And I definitely don't want it to get light at 4:50 in the morning in the summer. There's my take on daylight savings time. Once again, not political.
There it is.
Not political. I know that you're going to hear about it on whatever cable news channel you're watching this week. I'm fine with the current setup of daylight saving time. If you wanted to extend, it was extended. It was extended, I think. I did like a minor deep dive, like a shallow dive, Peter, on daylight, the history of daylight saving time last night. It was extended relatively recently, like they extended it a week on one side or the other. Like it changed weeks over the last several years. But it was like originally it was done for something. I'm not a historian on this matter. It was done for something that has to do with the. No, there's a poll question that says abolish daylight savings. Oh, I can't wait to see what people vote.
Yeah, I
on
wanted to get the consensus.
Yeah,
I wanted to see what the people. If I remember when I was still
But we have to
studying
get clear on something like
regularly.
Do they want to abolish it or do they want to extend it forever?
I guess
you know what I mean. Like
I guess they're
one way or the other. You're going to end up getting the negative side of both of them at one point of the year, always. Right?
I might be totally wrong, but I remember when I briefly looked this up years back. I think it has to do with farming, something with that.
There's
like the origins of it have to do with some
farming,
sort of farm
the war.
labor.
I have no idea.
Who's to say what it actually
Once
stems
again,
from?
Shallow dives here. But I thought you guys were kidding. So Jeff writes in, so you like it dark in the morning and at night and it gets dark at 5 and your child's sleep schedule gets messed up? Yeah, like the days are short during this time of the year. You can adjust to it, and then it makes when the days are longer, it makes you appreciate when the days are longer and the sun comes up at whatever and goes down at whatever. You're always going to have the same amount of sunlight. It's just when it starts and when it ends.
Yeah.
I would personally rather, I will take the trade of it getting dark at 5 for the sun to come out at a normal time. I do not want the sun to come out at 9. That's too late. That's too late. 9 in the morning?
That is pretty
Peter, what
late.
would you think if the sun didn't what would happen to our morning show if the sun didn't come out until 9? It would be like they were doing an overnight show.
The mood would plummet.
Yeah, it would be horrendous. So by the way, Derek writes that Connor, you have it backward. They want to make it so you don't go back an hour in the winter, so it won't get dark at 5 o'clock. I'm saying either way, don't make it one or the other. Don't make it, because I have a hard time keeping them straight. Don't do one or the other. Don't do all the time standard time. Don't do all the time daylight savings time. I like what we're in right now where we switch it. I know it might be confusing to some. And yes, you're going to have that one day in March where you get really, sad because you get an hour cut off of your sleep. Boo-hoo. You'll figure it out. Everybody's going to be okay. Not political. Back with Mike Schaefer next on 1620 The Zone.
Come the Guardians.
Yeah, I have statistics to back up that we have people that listen.
Mike Schaefer.
Anytime there's sort of a debate as to who can do something, Happer would always put his name forth.
For sure.
Husker 24/7 on the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone.
I could be a star.
All right, we're joined now on the 42 Degrees The Source hotline by our good friend Mike Schaefer of Husker 247. Hi, Schaefer. How are you?
I'm good. How are we doing, man?
Good. Are you all Vikings? Last time, I mean, when you were here on Friday, you were all Vikingsed out. I assume you're all ready to roll for tonight now as well.
I'm wearing a old green 24/7 sports shirt. So
that's basically the same.
Not quite. I mean, I sent Hudson to daycare in a Vikings onesie.
That counts.
So I think that should count for something. Hopefully they take care of business against the Bears today, and then, we'll see how it goes after that. But the NFC's wide open. They control their destiny.
By the way, if I apologize if I get distracted, I'm currently embroiled in a battle in the comments about daylight savings time right now, because I unfortunately did 10 minutes and a take on daylight savings time, like right before you came on the show.
Yeah, we got friends that feel very strongly about this. It's one of those things I don't really, whatever the people decide, I'm pretty much good with. Like I don't have my own formulated take on it. It's one of those very few rare things on the planet that I just don't have a natural take of. And so I'd be curious, would you like to run down what it was that you said one more time for me?
I like to keep it where it is right now. I think we go to extremes too often, and people get really triggered when they lose that hour of sleep in March, and they overreact by saying, I want to make it this all of the time. Why can't we just get that hour back? And my answer is no. I think you could deal with it for an hour a year.
Yeah. So basically what you're saying is you don't want any change off of the current model.
That's exactly right.
Okay. All right. I wanted to make sure I had where you stood on this. See, that's more of an opinion than I have on it.
Mm-hmm.
If someone was like,
Surprising.
Hey, we just never do daylight savings time again, I'd be like, okay, cool. I don't have to think about clocks twice a year.
Yeah, but the clocks change for you, Schaefer. The clocks will go. Do you have any clocks in your house that you have to manually change?
Well, yeah. I mean,
I guess your oven.
Generally.
Yeah.
And your car. Those are the only two that I can really.
My car even knows now. My car knows what day it is.
My car has no idea what's going on. It's a very dumb car.
Yeah. All right. I just wanted to make you aware that was sort of what was.
Yeah. Well,
happening.
No, I appreciate it. I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other. I'll put it this way. I support how you feel on it.
Thank you. I appreciate your support. It means a lot to me because I'm getting smoked in the comments right now. All right. So busy times. They never end. So Nebraska brought in some portal guys this weekend, obviously adding a big time transfer in Williams Nwaneri from Missouri last week. I guess where does Nebraska stand on some of the guys that we either they've brought in this weekend or some of their top targets that are on the board, because we know that they're quite active at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be another big week here of hosting visitors and guys making decisions. So the quiet period runs until December 22nd. So effectively next Monday, if you want to take a visit, you'll have to wait until the start of January. And so, Nebraska, I think, would like to have a few things locked up by then. Of what they have going on right now, the most interesting stuff to me, there's two wide receivers, the guy from Cal, whose name I never remember, and then Eric Rivers of Florida International. Those are kind of the ones standing out. Dane Key is out there as well. And his name gets mentioned with Nebraska. It seems like he's likely to stay in the SEC, but we'll see what happens with the former Kentucky wide receiver. But I think, whether it's Dinky or the Florida International guy or even the Cal guy. And Nebraska wants to get at least one veteran wide receiver to add to this group. I think they would like one of those. There's other names out there as well, but that's kind of a position that sort of stands out. Cameron Olds is an outside linebacker from Kent State that's been a pretty productive player that I think would be a good fit for Nebraska as they kind of build back what they've maybe lost a little bit on their own towards the portal, and then obviously build towards the future. He's someone that kind of stands out a little bit. I apologize. I'm like not in a great spot in terms of having names memorized.
No, there's a lot of them.
The like coaches. I'm doing like the coaches thing where they just give you the number, except I'm just going to tell you the school and generally the position. There's the Michigan backup lineman that played center a little bit that Nebraska has interest in. He has 2 years of eligibility. I think they felt really good about it, but he still has some other visits that he's considering or plans to take before he makes a decision. So there's an offensive lineman there. There's offensive line in general is going to be sort of it's always a tough one because you have to pay a lot for the top end guys. And then you have to decide, is someone who's maybe a top end or not a top end guy, is he going to be better than what you maybe already have in your room? So that's something to kind of keep an eye on, as well as potentially names pop up, or if Nebraska's linked to someone, chances are this early in the process, it's going to be a highly valued guy. And that would be, you'd be spending quite a bit of NIL money there to try to bring in, a top offensive line target. It's just sort of, it's wild. Like I was talking to Brunch for 25 minutes this morning, just trying to get a handle on everything, because last week was kind of bizarre for me. And I feel like I'm kind of still playing a little bit of catch up, but if I'm playing catch up, then I would imagine, the coaching staff whose hair just has to be on fire trying to lock some of this stuff down. I mean, the portal is crazier than ever, and I feel like it's playing out that way. But Nebraska does have their long snapper, and that is very valuable.
That's huge, no doubt about it. Shafe, do you get like I know that it's a lot in a short period of time right now, and they're all coming from like different places, but do we need to? And Nebraska's targets are their targets, right? But do we need to maybe get out of the habit or something like that on looking at where these guys are coming from? Like obviously the people who Nebraska fans will take an interest to is the guys coming from Michigan, or if a guy's coming from Washington, or if a guy's coming from Kentucky, rather than maybe the guy from FAU or something, or FIU or whatever it might be. Like, I guess, how do you view that? How do you suss through all that right now, given Nebraska's targets are their targets, but where they're coming from is all different?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I think it's of value for people to be open to the idea that talent can come from anywhere. That maybe the best player for Nebraska isn't necessarily a guy that played Power 4 football, but someone who's gotten a ton of reps at the Group 5 level, comes in as a mature adult, and just wants one last year of college football to prove that they can play at a really high level. Like there's nuance to all of this. We've seen guys come from Ohio State and Alabama and haven't panned out. We've seen players come from Montana and Samari Toure, or Chris Kolarovic and Omar Brown from Northern Iowa, and they've been really, really valuable contributors to what it is that you're doing. So I think, talent can come from anywhere. It doesn't necessarily have to be from the high-end places. And then you have guys like an MJ Sherman who couldn't get on the field at one of the peak, talent times at Georgia, but was able to plug in 2 really strong years for Nebraska, the second being, what I felt was almost like a breakout year for a senior in MJ Sherman. So the portal is going to be different for everybody. And a lot of it comes down to fit, how you're used, and can you just go out and make plays? I mean, we would think about Isaiah Nair differently had he caught that pass against Iowa and finished off the game than we do probably right now. We would think about Jamal Banks differently if that version of him existed in the final few weeks for the entirety of the season. So, it's fleeting. And I get this a lot. Like, I see people Nebraska's looking at somebody, I think, from East Tennessee State or something like that. And you just immediately go and look at the production and where they're from. You're like, oh, he can't do anything here. Well, if he's a guy that can come in and he could be the backup to what you have going on the defensive line and is able to handle his business in 15 to 25 snaps, like there's a value of that for Nebraska. So I think it's important to keep in mind that like talent and help can come from anywhere. And just because someone's coming from a name brand school doesn't guarantee success. I mean, I think Kane Williams and all of the different players, Tyreek Johnson, I think that can all speak to that too.
Mike Schaefer, Husker 247's with us. Kind of on that, but over to the coaching staff piece now, is that's starting to clear up. We're getting some more clarity on both the defensive side of the ball, and then looks like the offensive side was sort of cleared up as well. Have you noticed, or is this just me, that a lot of these guys that coaches that Nebraska seems to be bringing in have like definite either recruiting chops or defined recruiting territory? Like it just feels that, and this is not a traditional era anymore of like you only get 10 assistants and whoever gets the recruiting tag and all that. So you could kind of mix it around however you want. But it does feel like a lot of these coaches that Nebraska is bringing in to be coaches, to be full-time coaches, definitely have a little bit more recruiting to them if there was a scale than maybe the original staff did under Rule.
Yeah, I think that's a possibility. I mean, certainly when you're talking about an Addison Williams who's spent some time down in Florida here recently, you're hoping that he's able to help with that. I think part of what maybe they've learned through a couple years, and this is me just kind of speaking on where they've had some success, I think they feel comfortable that they can recruit the Midwest without having to have like a person specifically designed to do that. Like, I don't know that you need a coach who's super well known in Iowa or South Dakota or Kansas, like not necessarily Kansas City, and I'll get to that in a second. And then you try to fill in the rest of your staff with guys like a Phil Simpson who has connections down in Miami, and a Jamar Mosey who's connected in Kansas City. So then you can kind of go into those areas, and you've got a guy who's a bit of a Pied Piper that can help bring a player or two, and then you're still filling out a lot of your class with the kids from Iowa and from Nebraska and Kansas and Missouri, and you're going to go into Texas because Rule has connections down there, and you're going to recruit Oklahoma as well. But I think it was a value to them to kind of have a few more connections into the state of Florida. That does seem to be the one that they're kind of putting an emphasis into beyond just where they are in the Midwest and Texas. I think we are going to see a lot less recruiting of the Northeast and a lot more recruiting of the Southeast, which, you know, always kind of makes sense because that's where there's so much talent. But if they're able to build a pipeline into Miami, that can pay off in considerable ways.
Yep. We've tried to do the pipeline to, you know, enter city or enter region here for a while, but it feels like Nebraska actually has some players on their roster where they can use as examples. And it's actually kind of taking off. There's been plenty throughout Nebraska's history, but in recent history, it's been they've had attempts and less so pipelines that have come to fruition. Does this feel like maybe one of the best opportunities they have to actually make this work, Miami or Kansas City?
Well, I think because you have some flashpoint players in Ja'Cory Barney and Willis McGahee, the fourth, that have played well for you, Vincent Shavers, you're going to have Cortez Mills. I mean, if those guys end up being all Big Ten level players, that's what has to happen. It can't just be, oh man, DiCaprio Boodle had a really nice career at Nebraska, and that means Nebraska is going to get more players from Miami. Not necessarily, but if you can have, like, if Ja'Cory Barney goes and has a really, really sophomore season and is talked about in a way that, Rondale Moore was talked about by Purdue, or just trying to use an example of the sort of player that I think Ja'Cory Barney could emulate. I think that could have a huge effect on your ability to go into that area and continue to recruit. If Willis McGahee becomes a really good pass rusher and is a playmaker on the defensive side of the ball, that can be really, really helpful. You've got to have the right player, and he has to have success. It can't just be, oh, that guy had a nice career at Nebraska. You need someone that really kind of breaks through, and you then continue to recruit that area until you get a player like that. I always use this example. Ohio State blew up in St. Louis because Ezekiel Elliott became the best running back in college football and then happened to be playing for Ohio State, and they were able to just go back to that well over and over and over. If you can get something like that and build something like that, it could be huge for Nebraska's recruiting efforts moving forward. It never happened in LA, and that's why things kind of fell apart there. Terrell Newby never became a star. Johnny Stanton never became a star. You know, players of that caliber. You didn't have the wide receiver Tristan Gebbia and Keyshawn Johnson, and those guys it didn't happen. And so you couldn't build off of it. So for it to happen in Miami, you not only need Ja'Cory Barney to be what he is right now, but even better, and then have more guys like Vincent Shavers and Willis McGahee and Amari Sanders and Cortez Mills. Those guys help fill in that gap.
All right, Chafe, we'll let you go. Enjoy the evening tonight. Should be fun. Always fun playing the Bears.
Yeah, never fun playing the Bears. Games are always weird. Just be excited if the Vikings have one more point than the Bears do at the end of the game. That's basically where we're at here.
You've
got to finish 4 straight wins. You get the number 1 seed.
Vikings
guaranteed second round of the playoffs. Starts with a 1-point win over the Chicago Bears.
Vikings fans, handshake meme, Chiefs fans on winning by 1 point.
Hey, you know, I would like their past success. So if that's working for them, who am I to scoff at it?
Schaefer, enjoy your night. See you later.
Yeah.
That's Mike Schaefer, Husker247. You can check out all the coverage over on the website with Brunts BC and Schaefer. 2 games tonight in the NFL. Bears, Vikings, and then Falcons, Raiders. I've long been against the Monday night doubleheader, but here we are still with a Monday night doubleheader.
Here we are, the Raiders, 2-11.
Yeah, that'll be exciting for everybody. By the way, comments continue to roll in on daylight saving time. Maybe it's another thing that we could just bring back. I said in the comments that I officially regret wading into these waters as the comments exploded during the Schaefer interview. And Travis says, maybe if you repent and acknowledge you were wrong, this could all go away. Stay tuned for that.
Interesting.
Stay tuned for that. Back with Peter Mann's Odd News coming up on 1620 The Zone.
And now we've reached the point in the show where Josh Odson reads the peculiar, the bizarre, the comical, the odd news with Odd Son. Odd news, Odd Son. See what we did there? The odd news with Oddson.
Okay, time for the odd news. Excited to see where we're headed today, Peter Man. Where are we going?
We're gonna go over to the library, suburban Detroit library, to be specific.
I thought you were gonna say the Omaha library.
Would be fun. I'm sure something like this has probably happened there.
Okay.
This isn't like a particularly like, whoa, this is a weird. Like this happens fairly common, I think, where people check out a book and then totally forget they have said book and rediscover it much later down the road.
Decades.
That happened to Chuck Hildebrandt. He's a 63-year-old. Looks like he checked out the book Baseball's Zaniest Stars in 1974 when he was 13 years old. He is now 63. And he said he was rummaging through some stuff, found the book, and saw it had like the code thing, the Dewey Decimal, how they keep track of all that. And he's like, well, I probably shouldn't have this. But then he decided he wanted to hold on to it until this year specifically, because it would be the 50th anniversary of the book's.
Oh, he did it purposefully.
Yeah. So it was an intentional, like keeping the book itself was not intentional, but then he intentionally kept it until this year.
He intentionally kept it longer. Got it.
He's like, I want to have it for the 50th anniversary of when I checked it out.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess at that point, how much worse
you
can
might
the
as well.
fine get?
Yeah, he's like, because he wanted to make it a little public thing to like celebrate the book. It was good intentions, and then the library director said he could just hold on to it. No hard feelings.
Oh, really? Okay, so they're not coming after him.
Yeah, no, they're not gonna. Which and
I always wonder if the libraries have like.
I always wonder how strict they're supposed to be about this kind of thing, but I guess after 5 decades, maybe you just kind of let it slide.
Well, I just wonder, I like obviously there's tiers of how late you are, right? I mean, okay, it's a day late, then it's this. It's a week late, then it's this. What happens if it's 48 years late? Does the price tag get heftier if you've kept it for 35 or 40 or something like that? Like, I just wonder. I don't know. That will probably have to be a thing soon because there won't be any books.
But it ended saying he's now going to try to raise $4,564 for a nonprofit literacy group because that is the rough amount that he would owe for the book if they were to charge him, which they won't.
And wait, how much is he trying to raise?
About $4,500.
Wow, really?
Yeah,
$4,500 for a late book?
Yeah, Baseball's Zaniest Stars. Maybe it's a hot read.
Wow.
1971 is when it was published. I feel like I've seen this book. It looks familiar.
Okay, who's on the cover?
Good question. Let's see. Oh, there is a picture. Who? I don't know who that is.
Baseball's Zaniest Stars.
There's a bird on his head.
Oh. I don't know who that's supposed to be either.
By Howard
Liss.
Yeah.
I don't know who that guy's supposed to be.
I don't know who that is. Maybe someone can look it up and chime in on the stream.
Cool.
And then moving on, I know Josh will appreciate this one. Fellow movie guy, Josh. So did you know there was a new Lord of the Rings movie that came out this weekend?
No.
You are not alone because almost nobody did. It was like zero marketing.
Awesome.
Almost no publicity for a Lord of the Rings movie, arguably one of the biggest franchises of the entire last century.
I guess so.
For at least since the Peter Jackson trilogy. I'm not like a gigantic Lord of the Rings fan, but I thought it was very bizarre that they were releasing a movie and there was just like zero buzz at all. And it totally bombed this weekend. It made like $4 million.
Well, nobody goes to movies anymore.
Yeah, it's not gonna make much money whatsoever. But then the weird part is that Warner Brothers released a statement.
Wait, is it anime? Is this an anime?
It's an anime Lord of the Rings movie.
The War of the Roar.
I think it's Rohirrim.
What the hell is going on?
It's a mouthful.
These sickos.
Very random.
They're trying
movie.
to prey on the anime nerds.
So if you saw this and thought, what is this project? This is so random, you would be right. And Warner Brothers, in a very bizarre move, released a statement saying, announced in June 2021, Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim was fast-tracked to ensure New Line Cinema did not lose the film adaptation rights for Tolkien's novels, while the Lord of the Rings trio, and then they name the people that are in charge of the creative, worked through a creative vision for the next live-action movies for the future.
Oh, so this is a placeholder movie?
Outright admitted that this movie was fast-tracked and made so that they did not lose the contractual film rights. Because I guess that's what the deal was when they struck it. That if they don't release a movie for a certain period of time,
a
lose the rights.
A literal placeholder movie.
Yeah, and they just outright admitted that, which I thought was a wild move that they would just come out and say that.
So they don't care how
no, they must not care at all. They
just
must. They're washing their hands with this movie after one weekend.
Probably smart.
And we'll end on this. I got a little audio bite for this. So if you were watching the Ravens game yesterday, you might have noticed a play where Lamar Jackson took off and was having some wardrobe issues, aka holding his pants up very visibly in distress with his pants. And he got asked about it. And this was the explanation he gave in the presser.
Hold up your pants. All
right, so look, they was asking me that. So I'm like, I felt like wind was touching my butt, so I was trying to keep my tights up for real. I feel like the tights just like got a little loose or something. I don't know. So I was like just trying to keep my pants up. But that's all it was. It was too cold out there. Like, what?
Is that what happens when it gets too cold? Your pants fall off?
I don't know, but he said wind was touching my butt.
So
my tights was falling.
When you watch the video, it does not appear that his pants are loose at all.
That's what I thought. I was like, this doesn't seem like any different than any other play, but he was very much grabbing his pants.
So, but what he was saying was like, it felt like, so maybe this was the case that the tights underneath were slipping down, and like that's an awkward feeling. If your underwear is going down, but your pants are staying up.
Do they just throw like compression pants and then the jersey pants?
I don't even see how that's possible.
I don't know.
Like, it happens to fat guys all the time, because they're always, I don't know why, but it does always seem to happen to fat guys. It's hard to keep the fat guy's pants on, but you rarely see it happen to skill athletes. There you go. Lamar Jackson holding up his pants.
So, shout out Lamar for not dropping his pants mid-game.
That was great.
Would have been unfortunate.
It definitely would have been. Jimmy writes in, by the way, people go to movies, Connor, good movies. Interesting. I haven't heard of anybody go to the movies except Josh.
Josh and I are the ones.
Josh,
that go to the movies.
Josh and Peter, you guys go to the movies, and
I'm a weekly movie attendee.
Peter, are you into super weird iterations of candy or snacks that have been concocted out of thin air? Josh is super into that.
I could try some stuff.
Josh is like, "What's the newest chocolate-covered Dr. Pepper flavored Skittle?" And Josh is like, "I'm in. I'll eat this." Sounds awesome.
There is always something random that I was like, "Whoa, where'd that come from?"
All right, that's the odd news. Thank you, Peter. We will be back for the noon hour. Talk some basketball from over the weekend. Don't forget, we'll talk volleyball with Lincoln Arneal coming up at the bottom of the hour. More to come on a Monday. The Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone. On the YouTube from Hot Danger, Connor, between Moana 2, Wicked, and Deadpool and Wolverine, this is one of the largest box office years of all time. Is it really one of the largest box office years of all time? Peter, can you confirm this?
There's been some hits. This Thanksgiving weekend.
What is that even compared to? Like, what is that? Just because going to the movies costs an arm and a leg now?
That's definitely part of it, but there was just kind of like a perfect storm, especially around Thanksgiving with Wicked, Moana 2, and then just the fact that they released those movies on like a Tuesday when everything's $5. There was just a massive influx.
See, I'm cool with that. Like, I want movies. So, by the way, Hot Danger finishes off. He says, another example of Happer globalizing his opinion in defiance of facts. I love the movies. I love going to the movies. I just haven't had anything move me to the movie theater in a very long time. And I'm one of the people who needs to be moved to a movie theater. Like, I can recall some awesome experiences watching movies for the first time in the movie theater. Nothing like it. It's awesome. I'm very pro movies, but it's just hard to get me there.
It's good that stuff like Wicked and Moana picked up the slack, because I think that since they took off, this was easily, aside from Deadpool and Wolverine, the worst year, bar none, for comic book movies in a very long time. It was bad. A lot of very bad movies that made no money.
I mean, Peter, this doesn't seem. I'm no movie executive, but this doesn't seem that difficult. Marvel ended. All right, it ended. You ended it. You could have extended it 7 more years if you wanted to, and did another 7 movies before you finally finish it off with Avengers Endgame 2 or whatever. But you didn't. You ended it. And guess what? There was a nice bow tied on it. There was a couple loose ends, but there was generally a nice bow tied on top of it. And you told everybody that it was over. And so it was over. And now they're trying to do more movies with
it's never over.
But
there's always more money.
So now what? Is the Robert Downey where he's the green guy? Is that coming out yet?
That is in the war. That's going to be, I think, 2026. I think that's.
But even then, that's not like a great time for movies, using Marvel movies as an example.
The ones particularly this year, they are Marvel movies, but the ones that were really bad this year were the Sony Marvel, because how it worked back in the early 2000s, Marvel was basically bankrupt and had to do a fire sale, and they basically just sold all the rights to their stuff to the highest bidder. So Sony got the rights to the Spider-Man and all those characters back in the 2000s.
How many more Spider-Man movies can we make?
And so 100? So Sony is just going to milk it as long as they possibly can. And I don't really blame them, but after the slate that they've put out recently, I am very much done with it.
Amazing Daniel has a question.
Bad movies.
This begs the question, what kind of movie does draw you into the movies then? I can tell you. I'm a pretty simple man. We haven't had a comedy with A-list actors in a while. I don't feel like we've had a prestige movie, and I guess I don't really know how to describe it. It doesn't feel like we've had these movies where there's 2 big actors and they're not it's not because of some wacko concept. It's just like a couple good actors getting together and saying, let's do this movie and make it really good. Maybe we're out of ideas. So that one's, I guess, hard to say exactly what my taste is. But I would say generally, if you put Gosling in something, I'll probably show up. I'll go to the movies. Yeah. I'll go to the movies for Gosling.
Gosling's always good.
You can put that on the poll question if you want. Would you go to is the only reason you go to the movies for Ryan Gosling, basically?
I'll throw that up there.
Yeah. So, I mean, and I would say also, I am generally not like a first night. I am not going to be the guy who dips my toe in. That's for guys like Peter. That's for guys like Josh. They go to the movies so they can tell me if I should or shouldn't go to the movies. So I'm getting my reads, all of guys like you, Peter, who are telling me that the movies suck right now. I'm taking that opinion from the movie people. this is not a foreign thing from me. This is not me making stuff up. I'm the guy who doesn't see movies notoriously. I'm listening to you all, and you're telling me that they're bad.
The comic book one's not great this year. I did like Deadpool and Wolverine, but yeah, I have seen a lot of good stuff outside of that genre. So I'll shoot you some recs, and some of it's on streaming, so you don't even have to leave your house.
Gosling did The Fall Guy. That is as interested I've been in going to the theater this entire year.
Yeah, The Fall Guy. And, that was a lot of fun.
And I saw Barbie 3 times. I love Barbie. Barbie is a great movie.
Fall Guy was great. I did like that,
but I didn't watch it until it got out of the movies. I think
when it was on Max.
Barbie, yeah, it was on Max. Yeah. Then I watched it on a plane once too.
Oh yeah, good plane movie.
Great plane movie. It was like less than 2 hours. Just the amount of time I need. Anyway, welcome back. This is a sports radio show, the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone and on 1620thezone.com. We've already talked about some volleyball. We'll still have plenty to jump into when Lincoln Arneal joins the show. I think it's the Lincoln Arneal debut on the Connor Happer Show to talk some volleyball as Nebraska prepares for the Final Four. And they'll have a rematch with Penn State coming up in the late game this weekend in Louisville, Kentucky. A lot of traveling. People are going to be driving to Louisville, Kentucky. We're driving to Kansas City in August. We're going to the Pinstripe Bowl. I wonder how many people are like, hey, I'm going to drive to Louisville and not go to New York. That sounds like the better plan for me. I'm sure that will actually be a common refrain around Nebraska fandom. I wanted to say a couple things. So these are some questions that I bounced off of Schaefer, and we'll have another opportunity to sort of talk Huskers with Sam McEwen coming up at 1:00 here. But I've been interested in the way that the staff has sort of come together for them over the last week or so. To recap, as this is where the handy dandy board comes in. So Dakiel Shorts, he's the new wide receiver coach. That has really been the change on offense. Obviously, the Dana Holgerson offensive coordinator thing, full time, which is huge. It's a big deal for Nebraska. John Butler elevated to defensive coordinator. Terry Braden in from the Chiefs as the assistant. He was the assistant defensive line coach of the Chiefs. Now he is Nebraska's defensive line coach. Dvorak stays a linebacker. Phil Simpson's in. Phil Snow's in. And then you are now bringing in Addison Williams, the former University of Central Florida defensive coordinator. He was Gus Malzahn's defensive coordinator last year. And he was at Coastal Carolina. He's been at Coastal Carolina in the past as well. He reportedly is going to be Nebraska's new defensive backs coach. And I can't help but notice, while we don't know a lot about these guys yet, and they had a pretty good defense last year, and he's got a pretty nice resume. I can't help but notice when I look at some of these names, and then I look at some of the early activity, like Shorts and Braden and Simpson, and we'll see what happens with Addison Williams here. That it just feels like if you're comparing this staff right now to Rule's original staff when he got here 2 years ago, just feels like this may have a little bit more of a recruiting twinge to it. I bounced that off of Schaefer a little bit, and he said, I think there might be a little bit of that. And I'm not saying, hey, this is going to be a recruiting staff. Now, keep in mind, this setup that you have can be malleable in a whole bunch of different ways, because you can have infinity assistant coaches if you want. Obviously, you want to have the traditional spots, linebackers, defensive backs, offensive line, running backs, and stuff like that. That way, those positions sort of have their own individual head coaches and stuff like that. But I look at some of these coaches, and I feel like they're either tied to specific recruits, or they're tied to areas of the country where Nebraska feels like they kind of fit in a box. And I mentioned to you guys last week, although I did not think it was going to be Addison Williams, as Nebraska's defensive backs coach, which has now been reported, but not yet confirmed. That, or I guess officially announced by the university, I should say. I thought it would be a different name, but the context stays the same. I thought that they would go and get some South Florida ties. And that's an area where Nebraska clearly wants to be active. They want to recruit, and they want to be, like I said, they want to be just active in that area of the country. Feels like Miami and
Nebraska.
Nebraska. It feels like Miami and Kansas City have been a couple areas where Nebraska has just said, "Yeah, I think we have some real footholds here now, and we could go out and get players, and we have players on our roster who we think are going to be successful, who are from each of these places, and then they could show other people in that area that it can work if you make the leap and if you come to Nebraska." Obviously, a little bit easier said than done in Kansas City than it would be in Miami, just simply because of location. But with that being said, Nebraska has a bunch of Miami players on the, as usual, but a good crew of Miami players on their roster right now. Corey Barney is a big part of that. Willis Begay, and there's a few others as well who they expect to play, and they expect to be competitive pieces for them. And then you can go back into Miami and recruit. Okay, well, so what do? We continue to beef up that operation, and we bring some people in on the staff who are connected to the Miami area or to that part of the country, to the state of Florida, and they have done so. All right, Kansas City, recruiting a bunch of guys out of Kansas City. Got a couple guys in this recruiting class, and then there's obviously an important one coming out of the transfer portal as well, Williams Nwaneri. And so we're going to reflect that on our staff as well. We have Kansas City guys with Kansas City ties, like the, assistant defensive line coach from the Kansas City Chiefs, and Jamar Mosey. And a bunch of others on the staff who are familiar with the area and understand the landscape. And there's enough trust built up there where they could bring in players on the roster. All is to say, there's no doubt about it. This staff and the way it is set up is very, very different from Matt Rule's original intent and original idea, I think. And not to say that that's a bad thing. It's not. In fact, it's a good thing. I think it's a sign that Rule is sort of adapting and developing with what he sees as issues in the program or what he has experienced with the ever-changing landscape of college football. Ever-changing landscape of college football. People always do that. But I do think there has been quite the adjustment from, and some of that is just, guys take other jobs and you lose them and you have to fill spots. But then when you do that, you can either look at it as a disappointment. Oh, we lost him. What are we going to be without him? Or an opportunity to plug holes on your staff that you felt like were areas that were underserved. Or to bolster areas where you feel like they can really, capitalize on some things that are happening. So Jeff writes in on the text line. He says, seems like Rule is targeting guys who can maybe bring some dudes with him. I'm with you, man. That's the way it feels to me more than anything. We'll keep in mind, Nebraska needs players as well. So I think all that stuff is really important as Nebraska sort of reshapes its roster. They reshape its coaching staff first. The other thing I'll say about the portal, we'll talk about this with Sam too. And I'm in a less informed position than Schaefer is, because Schaefer is following it more on the second to second, hour to hour, minute to minute, clock than I am at this point. But some of the names that have popped up over the weekend and last week when the transfer portal opened as guys who would be interested in Nebraska. There's one from Washington. There's one from Michigan. There's one from Kentucky. There's also FIU and East Tennessee and New Hampshire and Rhode Island and a whole bunch of other stuff. I I feel like, and maybe this is still yet to be identified. I'm curious how much room Nebraska has and really what we're talking about. We're not talking about roster. We're not talking about depth chart because we know they have room available there for this. But I guess what we're mostly talking about here is salary cap, right? How much flexibility does Nebraska feel like they have to go get players who are in the, and there's not very many of them who are kind of not necessarily a bona fide start. I don't know what the difference between a starter and a bona fide starter is, but right, I'm talking about Power 5 guys with not just experience playing, not just guys who, need to elevate their role. And there's always spots for those guys on the roster. And Nebraska obviously needs to fill with more depth. But I also feel like there's probably a couple spots out there where they need a player who they can depend on. And maybe it's Williams Nwaneri. Maybe it'll be him next year. But that seems like a bit of a gamble, given that, you'd be stepping into a significant role right away if he's to turn into that guy. Obviously has all the potential in the world to do so, but we haven't seen from him. And that's always the caveat in the portal. Oh, he's talented. He used to be a 5-star recruit, but why hasn't he played at his previous stop? And maybe in the case of Nwaneri, it's just too early. That could certainly be the case. And I definitely have high hopes for him, but can you really bring him in right away and depend on him and say, all right, go get me 10 sacks this year or something. We're going to need you to get 10 sacks. Maybe not. But I do feel like Nebraska has some space here to be able to, they definitely, like I said, they definitely have holes in their roster and the necessity to bring in players who are established and have played at the Power 5 level, or, maybe even more specifically in the SEC or in the Big Ten. You're limited in terms of what you can get, obviously, but you're also limited in terms of NIL. So it'll just be really interesting to see where Nebraska feels like they can best allocate those resources around this time of year. I don't think they'll have issues bringing in guys who have been depth pieces at their previous stops. I think they'll be fine there. But I would like maybe one or two more who come in with some real chops, like some real production and stuff behind it. Like Dane Key, the wide receiver for Kentucky, would fall into that category. I love production. And I think it's a fair point that Schaefer brings up when he's talking about, hey, maybe at some point we just get past the idea of where he's coming from and just look at production. I've always been a big believer in the fact that production matters. I love the fact that the guy from FIU had 1,100 receiving yards or whatever it was last year. That is awesome. But there's this balance and there's this scale. Do you want to go after, is that guy going to be your feature player for next year? It certainly worked out in the case of Samori Toure. Absolutely. But we've also seen a Trey Palmer work out at Nebraska as well, where he came from a highly successful Power 5 program and he didn't play. Didn't play much. Didn't play as much as he wanted to anyway, I should say. And then came to Nebraska and was immediately depended on to be their top wide receiver and had the best wide receiver season in Nebraska history in 1 year. Samori Toure did similar things when he had a whole bunch of production to his name and only doing it at the FCS level. So is Nebraska going to have the chops, the money, all of that available to go out and really, really compete for some of the top guys in the portal? You still want to add one or two more of those, I think, and then we'll see how the rest of it sort of falls into place. Just a couple observations I've had on what, because often in the second to second, minute to minute, hour to hour, it's just too much to follow. too much going on. There's guys taking visits. The guy in Lincoln doesn't know whether he's in Lincoln or in Omaha, and there's too much going on. So we'll keep it to the experts on the, and then we'll be here at the end of the day to make the big picture takes. All right, let's talk some volleyball. Nebraska volleyball off to the Final Four. We'll also mention Creighton here, and what a career it has been, or it was, for a couple Creighton stars who had their season end last night. Lincoln Arneal will join us on the other side. We will talk some volleyball coming up on 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome back. Connor Happer with you. Peter Krenzer on the ones and twos today, talking about movies in the comments, doing his thing. Continue to keep those coming if you need to. We're joined now. Let's talk some volleyball. Lincoln Arneal joins us. I think this is the debut for Lincoln on this show. Covers Nebraska volleyball for Huskers Illustrated and also writes for Volleyball Magazine. Lincoln, hello. How are you?
I'm doing well, Connor. Glad to make my debut. Very, very proud to be here.
I assume you get a few more calls around this time of the year. This might be a busy week for you.
Yes, this is the busiest week. We got like triple podcasts. We got articles every day. The interest level definitely goes up, and I welcome it with full arm. It's the chaos that I thrive on.
Yeah, I figured we'd get in early. So we're gonna try that. So give me a sense. Yesterday, this was definitely a thing, and feel like people maybe have to get like retaught volleyball every year, and when they are reminded that Nebraska is competing for a national championship. But every time it blows me away. This one maybe more so. What was the environment like at the Devaney Center yesterday?
It was electric. Even before the starting lineups were announced, I mean, the crowd is doing Go Big Red and just kind of standing on their feet cheering. They did sit down. We didn't have a no-sit Sunday, but it was charged for every single significant point. There was a little more juice in the building too. And I mean, I've been covering this edition for the Huskers for about 6 years or so, and it's one of the louder environments that I can remember. It was definitely fun and a good place to be on Sunday.
I was sort of explaining it like you just don't get it very often where you have the right concoction of things where obviously a trip to the Final Four is on the line. Oh, by the way, the biggest rivals, standing right in front of you. And I think that maybe one of the more important parts here is like you're confident. If you're a Husker fan, you're confident that your team is going to win it, given the now recent history over Wisconsin, which that series has now flipped. It just kind of all made for the right cocktail to be able to have that place really blowing up yesterday.
Definitely, and I think too the other piece that I agree in too is it's losing you're done too, and I think this Nebraska crowd has a significant attraction to the seniors of this class and wanted to see them win. Also, probably maybe wanted to see the careers of some of these Wisconsin players who have tormented them for several years end as well too. So yeah, it was just electric and all the right mix of ingredients. I mean, they played Wisconsin in the past, even last year when it was 1 versus 2. That was a great environment, but this just had a little something extra. I think that comes with knowing if you lose, you're done.
Why is this flipped now between Wisconsin and Nebraska? And we're it felt like Wisconsin maybe had they definitely had Nebraska's number, but there was something more going on with that from a mental perspective on Nebraska's part up until last year, and now it has flipped back in Nebraska's favor. Where I'm watching on Saturday and I'm thinking, well, I feel like Nebraska has the significant mental advantage. The home crowd plays into that, but I guess what has happened from your eyes with these two teams over the last few meetings here?
Yeah, I concur with that feeling too. I mean, even when Nebraska was trailing by 3 or 4 points, you never felt like, oh, this set's over. Let's just move on to the next one. It's like, okay, when is Nebraska going to make their comeback? But it all comes down to me. The biggest difference is the back row defense. I think Nebraska is one of the best in the nation, and Wisconsin's really struggled this year. They have a freshman libero. They've kind of rotated different players in and out of that back row, and it's not up to par of what it has been in the past. So, I mean, if your back row is not playing effectively, you're not getting the ball to the setter in an advantageous position, and they can't utilize all of the weapons that Wisconsin has, whereas Nebraska, I mean, they're saving balls, they're keeping plays alive, they're taking Wisconsin's best shot, and through that, they're able to run their offense and tee up the Harper Murray, tee up Andy Jackson on the plays that also set the crowd off.
Lincoln Arneal's with us covering Nebraska volleyball for Huskers Illustrated and also writing for the Volleyball Mag. So you're covering the sport as a whole. So you have to be among the chief people looking forward to what we're going to experience this weekend with all 4 1 seeds. I mean, how good is this for the sport that we have monsters of the sport and pretty much what turns out to be inarguably the best 4 teams in the country meeting in the Final Four?
Yeah, I'm one of the 12 voters in the media poll for the Volleyball magazine, so I tried to keep my eye on. But really, I think these four teams, Penn State came on maybe a little bit late, but it was very clear that these four teams were just a little bit ahead of where everyone else is. I mean, most of their losses, except for SMU, have really come against each other. So it's by far the best. And it's kind of fun how it worked out, too. You have the old traditional powers of Nebraska, Penn State on one side of the bracket with all of their national titles. And you have the new powers have been the last 4 or 5 years been up there with Pitt and Louisville, who have yet to win a national title, but they got the home crowd, and this is Pitt's fourth straight Final Four, so they know how things work this time of the year.
How do you approach it then with these teams being as talented and as strong as they have been, not only from a this year perspective, but just like their programs? I mean, we're talking about 4 powerhouses of the sport at this point. Mm-hmm. What is even the approach as to try to figure out, all right, who has advantages where? Is it come down to like really granular pieces of the matchup, or I guess what are you sort of looking at most closely with these 4 teams?
I think it comes down to me, what big player is going to step up and carry the team to that title. You saw this last year. Maddie Skinner and Asia O'Neal were not going to be denied from Texas. And this year you got a number of big name players. I mean, Olivia Babcock, I think, is the favorite for National Player of the Year for Pitt. And then, I mean, Louisville too. It was kind of that home crowd. They faced death. Had faced match point against Northern Iowa, but that kind of maybe lit a fuse under them, and they're playing loose now. They got Anna DeBeer is their workhorse, who's really elevated her game, and then Nebraska's Harper Murray. I was really impressed with what she did this past weekend. And Penn State, they got a number of different players, but Jess Maruzic is the one who really needs to carry. So I think when there's that much talent, that much depth, is who can you go to in a crucial moment to deliver a kill or make that dig? In Nebraska case, I mean, they got Lexi Rodriguez, and I'll give a shout out to Elena Scott from Louisville, two of the better liberos in the country. So it's what elite player is going to rise to the moment.
Yeah, I was going to say, everyone around here knows who Lexi Rodriguez is and loves Lexi Rodriguez. But when you start to line up the players, you start to think about like power and like, athletic ability and how high can you jump and how hard can you hit it? Well, Lexi's not one of those players, but like she's definitely still can lead Nebraska to a national championship. It just looks a little bit different.
Oh yeah. And look no further. That second set against Wisconsin, she made a case of why. I mean, I think it's a stretch to maybe call her National Player of the Year, but I think to honor her as one of the finalists, I think would be an accurate representation of where she is at skill-wise and the impact she has in the game. I mean, she had 8 digs in that one set, and really just it keeps the ball alive and gives Nebraska chances where their offense may be sputtering at times, and it frustrates the other team as well too. So the things that she does on the court, I think as you talk about the learning about volleyball, the more you watch, the more you appreciate what she does in the back row and how unique it is across the nation.
How about the really big picture here? The sport as a whole. I mean, it's obviously good, as we were just talking about with the 401 seeds and the power programs, but attendance numbers and television numbers. I mean, multiple matches on network television now. Nebraska's obviously a gigantic part of it. It kind of feels like it's growing and growing every year. What's the next step for the sport and its popularity in the country?
I think it's still gaining those numbers, getting regularly over 1 million viewers. I think we've seen a lot. Television networks have been a lot more creative this year of finding windows to get it on network TV or just have a regular network. I mean, you could turn on almost every single night of the week and there's a volleyball match on either Big Ten Network or ACC Network or the SEC Network. So it's if you want to seek it out, but it's cracking through that mainstream, and that's hard. And it's hard to do because they're going against football season, and football is such it's the elephant in the room, and it's hard to go against. So I think, I mean, there's a bunch of little things they can do, and we'll see. Hopefully, I mean, they're getting the semifinals will be on ESPN. Every single Elite Eight and Sweet 16 matches were on cable, not behind ESPN Plus. So I think that to me, and people have been complaining about the first and second round too, getting that off of ESPN Plus and getting at least a few of them on network and kind of create the chaos that is like similar to what March Madness has for basketball, to create something with that, because it's so much volleyball in just a couple days that it's drinking water out of a fire hose, but it's enjoyable.
For the storylines locally, were you hoping to get a Creighton, Nebraska national semifinal?
Yeah, that would have been great too. I mean, the work that Kirsten Bernthal Booth has done with Creighton, it would have been nice to have them pay off. And I mean, we talk about the senior classes of Nebraska and Wisconsin. The senior class at Creighton, you wanted them to have that experience. I mean, they've been knocking on the door for so long, Sweet 16s and just conference titles galore, that it would be nice to be recognized. Because I think people in Nebraska and Omaha know what Creighton is, but again, cracking through that national facade and making the Final Four really announces Creighton's presence. So that would, I was a little crestfallen when they weren't able to pull it out in the fifth set last night, but it would have been nice for them, and that you feel sad for the opportunity that they weren't able to seize upon.
You know, it's funny. You're describing them, and I'm thinking how Creighton has been sort of framed up, which is, I mean, he was even mentioned on the broadcast last night. You know, it's not a power program, and like that's obviously the position that would have been bestowed upon them had they have been in the Final Four, and even was in the Elite Eight round. But then I watch them, and I look at their talent, and I look at their coaching staff, and I'm like, well, that's not a mid-major program. Like, it's really cool to see what that program has become, and they definitely don't act like a mid-major program. That's for sure.
No, I think that's a good comparison of where volleyball lags behind, because Creighton basketball, they can have that success and do good things. I mean, Big East is different basketball sense too, but volleyball is just that much harder to get into the national conversation, and that's where that Final Four appearance is. It's been a couple of years ago, no one would have thought Pitt was a national program too, but they made that first Final Four, and now they're making routinely, and same with Louisville, that they're considered a national powerhouse. Creighton's kind of been on the edge, making Sweet 16s, this is their second Elite Eight, so it would have been nice to really put Creighton on the map and recognize the work that's going on, because to volleyball insiders, yes, I think they consider Creighton a power program, but because of the Big East, and it kind of weighs on them a little bit, and if they have that one deep run, then all of a sudden that changes the narrative a lot.
No doubt about it. Lincoln, when are you off to Louisville?
I am leaving tomorrow afternoon. Press conferences all day Wednesday, so I'm trying to get everything arranged here today, and then we'll fly to Louisville for the third time this year. My good friends in Louisville, I get to see them today.
Yeah, you're a regular at this point. Appreciate the time, man. Love the coverage, and enjoy the week.
You bet, Connor. Thanks for having me on.
That is Lincoln Arneal, covers Nebraska volleyball for Huskers Illustrated. Also covers volleyball on the national scene as well. Yeah, no stranger to Louisville is the national media, specifically the Nebraska media, Final Fours all over the place. When's the last time we looked at volleyball Final Four future locations? When was the last time we determined it's coming back? The next time. So
I think
we're on the books for Kansas City next year.
Alamo Dome isn't there somewhere?
Alamo Dome the Alamo Dome still exists.
It doesn't. I think it hosts the Valero Alamo Bowl and literally nothing else.
And maybe like the Army All-American game. They still have that there.
Might be it. Yeah.
It's in the Alamo. Great call, Peterman.
So that's after KC.
So yeah, Kansas City next year, then San Antonio, then back to Columbus. So we finally get the football stadium treatment for volleyball in 2 years. In what they've done.
That's awesome.
What they've done, they've made a mockery out of the Final Four in basketball, putting it at all these all these football stadiums across the country. We're going to do the same thing with volleyball in 2026. It'll be a star-studded showdown this weekend in Louisville, Kentucky.
Yeah, first
KFC Yum
all
Center.
one seed since 2008, I think.
Yeah, they were going through the stuff on Creighton last night. So it would have been the first school without a football program to make it since Santa Clara did several years ago.
I wonder who had to do the deep digging for that.
Yeah, it popped up on the ESPN broadcast. Also, how about that? I found out the Alamo Dome still. I knew the Alamo Bowl still existed, but I just felt like that was an old building, even when Nebraska was playing in their various Alamo Bowls throughout the decades. Also, the Alamo Dome, home of the Final Four this year.
Look at that.
So that's good prep for the volleyball Final Four next year. All right, we'll come back around at the hour. Speaking of Creighton, and speaking of ESPN, there's a graphic put up on ESPN on Saturday as Creighton took on Alabama. I'd like to show that to you. Various other things. Toasters. We still haven't got to toasters. Sam McEwen will join the show at 1 o'clock. Wanted to come on the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone. All right, so I guess the kids. Peter, could you confirm this? I'm not sure. Sometimes I feel like you have an old soul. Sometimes I feel like I treat you like a young. I don't know what to do.
Somewhere in the middle.
But you're going to be the representatives of the youth here.
Let's do it.
The youths seem to have taken a liking to Guinness.
I do think that that's a fair assessment. I think that Guinness is kind of catching on with people in my age demo.
So there are some bars, there are some pubs in Great Britain who they're concerned that around the holidays they'll run out of Guinness altogether.
Seems disastrous.
So from July to October, sales of beer decreased by 0.5% in the UK. Yet across the same period, sales of beer increased for 23% for Diageo, whatever, which owns the Guinness brand. Specifically, sales of Guinness in kegs grew by almost 21%. By the end of October, Guinness was the top-selling beer in the UK by volume across 2024. Social media influencers and marketing campaigns have helped to dispel notions that Guinness is a drink for old dudes. And apparently they have sent the young TikTok influencers to go drink Guinness.
Okay.
And
all right.
I don't know what it's working. And the kids seem to now, maybe it's because you could play a game while you're drinking. It's different. Like it's not beer that looks like beer, right? It looks different, but kids are discovering that you could play a game with it. You could split the G. Take the first glug, glug, glug. Oh, did I split the G? Okay. Great success. I don't know, but the kids are into the Guinness, which is something that I've now realized.
I feel like it has its phases where it's like the drink of St. Patrick's Day for people for one day only, and then they move on.
Oh.
But I think it's got some staying power now.
I don't know why. I don't know why people decided that now is the time, but it is most certainly.
The holiday season 2024 is Guinness is speaking to people, I guess.
By the way, Aaron corrects me on that distributor. Diageo is how you pronounce
That's incredibly hard to say.
Thank you.
Diageo.
Oh, speaking of pronunciations,
I would not like to say that.
there was a young woman yesterday on the University of Tennessee Chattanooga basketball team who was from Iceland.
Oh.
And every time when I get there, I look at the pronunciation. I look at the names and I'm like, am I going to have any problems today?
Was this an all-timer?
I was so proud of myself I got it. I think I got it exactly how they told me. And I can't remember it.
Can't even remember it.
But she was
let me look at their roster.
She was go ahead and look at because you'll know right away. I think she was number 5 maybe. But she was a starter. And so I had to do her hometown too. And if you pulled it up.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Okay, tell me about it.
Should I try to take a shot at this without any sort of guide?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is fun for me.
All right.
Oh, I can tell you exactly what it is now that I've seen it again. Yeah.
Sigrun?
Pretty close.
Olafsdottir?
Actually, very good. Sigrun Olafsdottir.
Now the name
from Hafnarfjörður, Iceland. Now, luckily,
did someone take a video of you trying to say this?
No, but I nailed it. I swear to God, I nailed it. And I was really proud of myself in the pregame. Luckily, when she scored baskets, I don't have to say Sigrun Olafsdottir from Hafnarfjörður, Iceland. I just get to say Sigrun Olafsdottir
from Flensburg High School.
Yeah. They had another one from Amsterdam as well.
I see a Serbia on here too. They have their international recruiting covered. There's a Lincoln native.
Yes, she did not play. Taylor Searcy was not available yesterday for them. So that was fun.
Oh, this name from the Netherlands.
Yes, yeah. Van der Schans.
Frode Floss Van der Schans.
Van der Schans.
This is awesome. That's an awesome
She goes by
name.
Flo.
That is awesome.
Excuse me, Flo. She goes by Flo. So that one
Very cool.
That one was picked up pretty quickly. All right. What are the comments? The comments on that one. All right, we're okay. Oh yes, basketball. So Creighton played Alabama on Saturday night. And on the basketball front, I know people hate moral victories. In this case, I'm taking one. I'm taking a moral victory. I thought that could have been a lot worse. I thought Creighton battled. I thought they found some stuff that worked for them. Jackson McAndrew had a great night. Ryan Kalkbrenner, I thought, looked healthier, right? Like, the only way that could have been a true disaster is if they lost by 40 and people got hurt again, because I didn't have a lot of expectations going in. But they battled and they hung around, and that's just a team that's physically better than they are at this point, and older, and like they have all the pieces, right? That team is going to contend for a national championship, and doing it on their home floor, like it's just a tough ask for this Creighton team at this time. Not saying that the standard is lowered or whatever it is, but I just thought like it was not as good of a result as you could have hoped for, because obviously you could have hoped to win the game, especially the way it went. But it wasn't the worst thing in the world. But that is not what takes center stage here. What takes center stage is this. Look, if you're watching along with us on YouTube, this was a graphic that the SEC network flashed up during the game. And so I posted this on Twitter. If you're not listening, if you're not watching with us on YouTube, you are missing a graphic on ESPN that is showing Alabama's football history versus Creighton's football history. Why was this a graphic on the SEC network? I don't know. To assert dominance?
Somebody cooked this up.
To Peacock? I have no idea. But yes, abundantly clear that Alabama has a good football program and Creighton doesn't have one. They really felt the need to put this on television. Which I don't people were asking, what, Connor, why did they do that? Like, what was the context of this? And I'm like, there wasn't any.
No context.
They just came back from break and they were like, hey, did you hear that Alabama is really good at football and Creighton doesn't even have a football program? Here's a graphic.
They stopped playing in 1942.
SEC basketball seems wild to me. It's almost in the style of the Big Ten, but the Big Ten in basketball, it's like we pretend we care about basketball. We have these kind of histories and traditions, and we're kind of snooty, but it's a football league, right? You know, who plays football the best? In the SEC, it's like it's that, but it's just a twinge different. Oh, we have really like good programs. The SEC is a good basketball conference, talented programs, really good coaches, and all of our arenas are sandboxes, and all of our games are on ESPN Plus. I don't know what's going on in the SEC, but they felt the need on Saturday night to put Creighton versus Alabama's football history on the board, and I'm really happy they did. Super necessary and super important. Jeff writes in, dude, you're such a homer, LOL. You yelled about Nebraska football not taking moral victories this year. Wait a minute. I have long been a proponent of moral victories. People always yell at me because I'm always the guy who says I actually kind of like moral victories. Everyone's like, Connor, there's no moral victories. And I am the person who always says you only get the tests, right? Like at the end of the season, you are what your record says you are. But in an individual game, it's very like, for example, Nebraska is coming off of the bludgeoning to Indiana and the beating by Ohio State and losing to Ohio State and then losing to UCLA at home. And then they have to go out to USC and play them. People are like, oh my God, he just hired a new offensive coordinator. He's only been here for 3 seconds. This is going to be the worst thing ever. I thought Nebraska played decently well in that game. They lost 28-20. It was a loss, but I thought there was some stuff inside there that may have set them up for the remaining 2 games. And guess what? They beat Wisconsin the next week, 44-25. People forget that. I think that was a moral victory. I like that. I'm okay with moral victories across the board. Generally, I guess.
Keyword.
Not like across the board always, but generally. All right. We'll come back with Sam McEwen coming up next on 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome back. It's the Connor Happer Show here on 1620 The Zone and on 1620thezone.com. Connor Happer and Peter Krenzer with you here on this Monday. A lot happened over the weekend, and let's talk about some of it here with Sam McEwen from the Omaha World Herald. Joins us now on the 42 Degrees of Source hotline. Hi, Sam. What's up?
How are you doing?
Pretty good. Kansas City to open the season, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty cool, right?
I love it. I'm in big favor of it.
Yeah. I think that's going to be fun for everybody. Get down there, make the drive up probably Thursday morning. But you know what? Some people could take off at noon and drive down there, get a hotel, have a meal, go to Arrowhead, and watch football. I mean, it's going to be a fun experience, and anybody who's ever been to that stadium knows it contains sound really well. It gets really loud, and it's a pretty easy place to navigate because of the giant parking lot. So, it's the traffic. Now, Connor, you would not remember this, but I do. I went to the 1998 game between Nebraska and Oklahoma State. That was these 26 years ago. And the traffic was a problem that night. There were fans showing up like late first quarter because traffic got snarled and people didn't. Now, I don't think that happens as much anymore around Chiefs games. The ones that I've been, I haven't experienced that.
Well, people are prepared for it, right? Like they know that they have to be there several hours in advance.
Right. And so, this will be a kind of a late arriving crowd on Thursday night. So like people, we'll try to remind people when the game comes around, hey, hello, you cannot drive down there at 5.
Right. Because you'll be thinking, okay, I could get off work, I could cut out of work an hour early, leave at 4, and be to the game by 7. That's how this works, right? No, I don't think so.
Nope. So people are going to have to make sure they leave a lot of time. But what a great place to go play a game. And, I think if you were to say to Husker fans, hey, you want to go to Arrowhead once every 4 years? I think Husker fans would be like, heck yeah. And they might even trade out a home game to go there. You just never know because Husker fans love to travel.
I'd sign up for it. So last time at Arrowhead was 06, right? The 06 Big 12 championship game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
I was
be
not that
reliving,
bad, but I've heard it was really cold.
Really cold. Yep.
Yeah.
Legendarily
cold.
Every late game college football, late season college football game I could recall at Arrowhead seemed to be just miserably cold. Hell, I mean, famously there was even a playoff game last year where it was -40 or whatever it was.
Yeah. Yep. I don't think we're going to run into any of those this weekend, are we?
Oh, that's a good question. I haven't. I thought you were going to ask about next August. Hopefully not.
We're not going to run into it then for sure. But
I haven't checked the weather for State College this weekend.
Yeah, well, if that weather had been from last night, been on Saturday, that would have been pretty sweet. Yeah, it's going to be really cold in State College. So next Saturday when they play the game, the high is supposed to be 27 and the low 17, which means in the 20s for SMU. That's trouble for sure. And then I think one of the games is in Columbus, Ohio, and it's going to be cold, although not as cold, like 28. And then where's the other? And then there's one
Notre
in
Dame.
South Bend.
Yeah.
So South Bend, Indiana. Now, the University of Indiana will not have a problem playing in that weather because they're used to it, but it's supposed to snow on Friday inside Notre Dame Stadium. That to me is the most interesting game in some ways of the 4 openers because Indiana can probably get fans in the game. Like, I don't know that, Notre Dame has a unique fan base where like they kind of alums come back for like 1 or 2 games a year and they come back on a Saturday and it's very festive. And, now you're basically asking them to come back on a Friday night. South Bend is not like a huge city. I don't know that they draw a lot of their fan base from South Bend. And so like IU might be able to get some folks in there and they, not a ton, but like, 7,000 or 8,000. And so it might be an interesting atmosphere. I think Indiana has a tall order, but they got a puncher's chance of winning that game on Friday night.
I think I mentioned this last week. I was driving into into Lincoln for, I think it was last Sunday's women's. Yeah, they were getting ready to play Minnesota, the women's basketball team. And I was driving into Lincoln, and it was cold. I mean, it was in the teens and windy, and just generally cloudy and generally miserable outside. And I thought, wow, there's an alternate universe here where Nebraska's getting ready for a playoff game, and they get like that stadium right there as I'm driving through on Interstate 180. Like, we're getting ready to go. It might be fun to watch on television, but gosh, it might be miserable to be at in person.
Well, it would be memorable in the sense that, like, the first one, whatever the weather is that time, will be something that no one forgets.
Yeah, for sure.
It would be it'd be wild. Now, by the time I think Nebraska's got a chance of making the playoff any given year. You never really know for sure, right? But by the time I think Nebraska's going to be like up and rolling, which is, a couple of years, they'll probably have some amenities in the stadium that make it a little easier. But it's the day's going to come when Nebraska's going to host a college football playoff game, and that day is going to be, pretty special event in mid-December in Lincoln, and it'll almost certainly be cold. It'll be cold, and then there might be some snow, and whoever Nebraska plays will have to deal with that environment, and we'll just have to see what happens.
Yeah, anecdotally. Now, help me suss through this. I guess I'm thinking of like some of the monumental is a strong word, but some of the big wins over the last decade plus, but multiple decades here. And I'm thinking of a lot of games that took place in September, and under nice circumstances. There have been Nebraska won a snow game under Scott Frost, and that one felt momentous at the time.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a few of them, but it feels like most of them in home games where Nebraska's been able to come up with big wins have been like early season, almost non-conference area games.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and there's something memorable about a 90-degree night too.
Yeah. It's just way different than what we're thinking about. Yeah.
It's a hard atmosphere to play in its own way. I was at the first Nebraska football game I ever went to was the snow game. It was 1986 Kansas State, and that was the one that people still talk about. I think they paved they shoveled the field at halftime, and there was a ton of snow, and Steve Taylor had a big game, and that was my first one. And how old was I? 8, 9, something like that. And it was we're down on like the 12-yard line, and the snow was just falling, and the crowd wasn't huge because I think people kind of went home, but that's like the most memorable of the snow games. And then the Michigan State one was up there. And the worst weather, like if I'm going to say the very worst weather that I think I've ever experienced at a game there, was either that Colorado game in 96, the weather was horrid. It was like an ice storm. Or I think the 91 Oklahoma game, Nebraska won it, but the weather was bad. It was cold and rainy. It was like 29 and rainy, and it was just kind of miserable. And those are probably the two worst that I can remember.
I'll give you a recent one. 15 Iowa.
Yeah.
I mean, low 20s, piercing wind, miserable day. And Nebraska had multiple chances to win because it was against Iowa. But that's a more recent one.
Oh yeah, that was a cold one, and classic Iowa win.
Yep.
Nebraska had way more yards. Iowa made 4 big plays, and that's how they, Iowa's a big play team. Actually, people don't register Iowa as being a big play team, but they actually are, and they do it with special teams and defense. They just don't do it with offense. So, yeah.
Okay.
Typical of Iowa.
Yep, sure was. Sam, I'm gonna basically ask you back your own poll question that you just put out. So we were talking about we were talking about the college football playoff, and when Nebraska might be up and running, and whatever it might be. So you laid out 4 options, and the question was, which situation could Nebraska most likely duplicate in their near future out of these 4? Indiana, Ohio State, Oregon, or Penn State. There's a
Right.
couple that stand out maybe more than others on that list, given where Nebraska's at right now. But what's what's your angle here? What are you thinking when you ask that question?
We're going to have a story on it later this week. And so basically I'll just kind of lay out, that the idea is to look at the four situations of the four different teams in the playoff and just assess where they're at. And not necessarily like where they're at is like 100-year snapshot, but like how they got there. And for example, the way that Indiana got there was to hire a new coach, bring a ton of players from the portal, and really have a pretty fortunate schedule. Like
Definitely.
Their schedule is not quite as easy as Rutgers, but it's close. And so like there's other teams that would have had a hard time duplicating what, for example, Michigan. I mean, Michigan is a 6-6 football team, right? Or 7-5. They're 7-5, but if you look at the teams they lost to, I think Michigan lost to 4 college football playoff teams. Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana, and Texas. Well, if you flipped Michigan and Indiana's schedules, I'm not sure Michigan's not 10-2. Like, so some of it is like Indiana's an example. And then Penn State, obviously their program, and then Ohio State. How does Ohio State do what they do? Well, they recruit better than everyone else in the country, not named Alabama and Georgia. And then Oregon, is an interesting program. Like Oregon has managed to sustain their success over 5 different head coaches. So you go all the way back to, can't even remember his name now. Bellotti? Yeah.
Mike Bellotti.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then him, and then Chip Kelly, and then, I understand that Helfrich got fired, but my goodness, he had some success in the short time that he was the head coach. And then, Taggart was only there 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
But Cristobal and now Lanning. And, with the exception of Taggart, who was only there 1 year, everybody's had quite a bit of success. And so, like, it's been sustainable over many head coaches. Well, that wasn't true at Nebraska. That hasn't been true. Like, they've had 5 head coaches recently, too, and they weren't able to sustain success. So is that situation like Nebraska? So it'll be the story will kind of examine the situations that the programs find themselves in. And I do think that one program emerges, and I'll have that in the story, that seems most like the situation that Nebraska finds itself in broadly. I don't think it's Oregon, although some people may pick Oregon and think, well, that's an isolated school and whatever. And I don't necessarily think what Oregon's doing is easily duplicable by Nebraska.
No.
Maybe it's duplicable by someone else, but I'm going to dig all the way into it, and I'm going to really look at Oregon's profile and look at some of the things they do. One of the reasons that I think Oregon's not easily duplicable is because I think Scott Frost tried and it just didn't really work. Yeah. He tried and it failed. So I don't know that that's the team I'd look at. But I think the other 3, there's arguments, I think, for all the other 3, and there is technically an argument for Oregon too.
Do you think Matt Rule would still make the comp to Michigan today as he did 2 years ago, basically when he kind of laid out his vision?
Well, I mean, that's a good team to compare yourself to, and
sure,
what Jim Harbaugh had going.
But it's changed in the way things have changed on the periphery.
They have. With the change in the league and some of the new teams that are coming in, I think he is reassessing maybe what his team needs to do on offense, and that's a good question for him. Maybe we'll ask him that on Friday. But I think there's probably a reassessment to be made in terms of, okay, Michigan had a very specific context. They were very good at doing X, Y, and Z. But is that sustainable? Can Michigan and Sharon Morris sure going to try, but is that sustainable? Like, can you get 4 tight ends who are all NFL caliber level players and have them all the time? Can you have 2 or 3 NFL running backs? And then can your quarterback basically function as a solid to above average game manager? And then can you consistently recruit the level of defender that Harbaugh was able to recruit? And then they developed them. I mean, I don't think Mason Graham went to Michigan as a top 5 pick. but he is one. I don't know that maybe Aiden Hutchinson did. I don't know. I don't think Aiden Hutchinson went to Michigan and was like, oh, this guy is going to be a surefire top 10 pick, and he became that. So I do think that Rule's admiration for the way that Michigan develops and the way they play the football game is real. And if you can play football the way that Michigan does, like the way Harbaugh taught them and the way that Morris continue it, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like they're a solid, and yeah, I mean the stuff with stealing the signs, Rule doesn't believe in that, but that's a physical football program that really does, play the game in a certain way. And I do think Rule admires that. And I do think he would love to have that. Maybe Matt Rule would like what Michigan was in 97. Let's put it that way. Like that team had a quarterback, Brian Griese and Elvis Gerbach a couple years before that. Like those Michigan teams could throw it more than this Michigan team can. So maybe the Michigan teams of the 90s, which could run the hell out of the ball, but they could throw it when they needed to, and they played incredible defense. Maybe that's the comp. I don't think Nebraska's going to the triple option of the Huskers in the 90s, so I don't know that that's the defined comp. But Michigan in the 90s was pretty good.
Sam, how do you now that we're nearly there, it seems, what do you think of the makeup of this staff, maybe compared to what it was? I mean, I guess it's sort of a similar question that I just asked, but like compared to his initial staff, Rule's initial staff that he brought here, the makeup's a little different here. Now, how do you feel like it's landed for them? And can you kind of see what they're trying to build, what they're trying to go after with the people they've put in place?
Well, I think Tom Chattel had a column this weekend where he talked to Rule, kind of, just him and Rule said that Bill Belichick and Bill Parcells once told him, like, your best staff's never going to be your first staff. And so, Rule mentioned that it takes maybe 2 years to figure out what a program needs and what it needs to be. And I think he's taken those 2 years and assessed it. And I don't know that much has changed on defense, Connor. I think they have a pretty darn good idea of what they want to do on defense, and they've just tweaked a few things. I don't think it's all that different offensively. Clearly, Rule laid out, hey, Dana Holgerson is a coach who can come in and can help transfer portal players learn an offense quickly, and I think that's very important. And, I think that they've wanted to move to an offense that the players can run and put the players in position to make plays. And I think that's where the tweak has come. And so I think the staff that he has right now is at least on paper, stronger than his first group. And I think that the upgrade was found in Holgerson. And then I think one could argue, and I would argue, that an upgrade was made at the receivers position. So, nothing against the guy that had the job, but I think he was learning a little bit of just like how to do it, because it was a little bit new and he was adjusting. And I think the guy that's got the job now has done that at a high level, under the coach who's going to be coaching. So I think that's a pretty smart hire. And then on the defensive side of the ball, I think they're about as good as they were. Evan Cooper was a really good defensive backs coach. They missed him. The guy that they just got, I think, is solid. And then, we'll see if John Butler can follow in Tony White's shoes. I mean, Tony White had a terrific 2 years, and Tony White's a good guy, and he's a heck of a guy. So Butler's got to keep that going. It can't just be like, well, he'll do it. He's got to prove that he can do the work that White did.
All right, Sam. We'll let you go. Appreciate the time as always. Enjoy your week, and we'll talk to you soon.
Happy Monday.
Yeah, that's Sam McEwen from the Omaha World Herald. Good stuff there. And I would encourage people to go find that poll question. You just put it up about 30, 40 minutes ago at SW McEwen OWH. Of the 4 Big Ten programs in the college football playoff, which situation could Nebraska most likely duplicate in their near future? Indiana, Ohio State, Oregon, or Penn State are the options that he put out there. Can't wait to see what he comes up with in the story that he's cooking up right now. All right, we'll take a quick break. Come back. Still some odds and ends to get to from the week. We haven't talked about the toaster. I know all people love to do is talk about Pop-Tarts these days. You kids Just falling in love with these bowl games and the Pop-Tarts and all the weird stuff that they're doing. Peter, you seem like you're guilty of this. You love the Pop-Tarts guy.
It is kind of hilarious. It's a little hilarious.
It's funny. It's funny.
I like them just standing around in the airport. That one picture of all of them just in the airport.
It has made for some good photos over the last couple of years. I will admit that. And some basketball as well. I have some things to say. I'd like to say about the Indiana basketball program before we get out of here. On the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone. I'm looking at a picture right now of Happy Valley State College, Pennsylvania, where they'll be playing a college football playoff game this Saturday morning against Southern Methodist. It is the whiteout has already begun. They're going to have a whiteout game but there is snow that is covering the entire stadium and on the field, as well as
nice.
You may have noticed that there was you may know from watching Creighton volleyball last night that there was some weather going through the area, which did prevent a whole bunch of people from it's a difficult place to travel to anyway, but from getting to the volleyball game last night. But we are going to experience a little bit of weather with our playoff games this weekend, which I don't know, depending on how you look at it, it's either really fun or annoying, or if you're an SSC honk, you're trying to figure out what conspiracy made this happen or something like that. I don't know, but it's gonna be cold. It's gonna be cold in Columbus. It's gonna be cold in Happy Valley. It's gonna be cold in South Bend as well. Unlikely to be cold in Austin, Texas, which would be the other location for the
good draw for
game.
Columbus.
They got out of that one all right. So, yes, I have some things I'd like to say. So Nebraska basketball took Indiana to the woodshed in the second half on Friday at Pinnacle Bank Arena, a nationally broadcast basketball game. Indiana, and it was a nice job by Nebraska. Nice win for them. Sounded like it was a pretty good crowd, even with the weather and all that stuff on Friday night. Like, looked good on TV. And Bryce Williams had a cool 30 in the game. Got good stuff from Jawan Gary and Essegian. Got going a little bit, made a couple threes. Major Morgan was pretty good in the game. Like, it was a really good performance for Nebraska basketball. So nice job by them. I'd like to talk about Indiana. What a fraudulent basketball program. Seriously. What a fraudulent basketball program. Every year we do this with them. Oh, yeah. But like you look at them in the preseason I wonder where they finished in the preseason. Peter, look this up.
Let's see.
Where they finished in the preseason Big Ten poll this year. Probably like top half at least, just because their name is Indiana. Go recruit some more 6'6" guys who can't shoot and white dudes who wear headbands. Go ahead, do it. You know you want to.
The Hoosiers in this year's preseason poll.
10th? 9th?
I know you got to count. Am I saying this right?
Yeah, there's 18 teams in the conference.
Third? Second.
Amazing. Perfect.
Second with 7 first-place votes.
Even that, wait, is that true?
That's why I'm doing a double take.
Are you like a 2024 Big Ten basketball?
Big Ten preseason media poll 2024-25.
Okay.
I cannot believe that is actually
the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But it only proves my point.
I
even
thought maybe
further.
I was looking at an out of date one, but nope. This is this year.
It proves my point even further. What a fraud program. Nebraska will do this to them every year throughout the history of time. And they'll just keep winning like 17, 18, 19 games, barely making the NCAA tournament or not making the NCAA tournament. And people want to act like Indiana's or like the next coach that comes in is going to do this and this and this to Indiana. They have hired average coaches for like the last 5 times they've hired coaches ever since Bob Knight, I guess. And they've hired average coaches every time, and they've gotten average results. Tom Crean had it going for a minute. Tom Crean went to he went
Sweet
to
16.
He went to 2 Sweet 16s in a row, then missed the tournament, then won a game, got bounced in the second round, and then went to another Sweet 16. Since then, the entire Archie Miller era has come and gone, and now we are 4 years deep into the Mike Woodson era. They have one NCAA tournament win since Tom Crean left town. They have one NCAA tournament win in the last 8 tries, 8 years, I should say, because there hasn't been a tournament yet this year, and there wasn't one in 2020. We're talking about one tournament win in 6 opportunities to get to a tournament so far. They're going to get to the tournament this year. I have no idea. What a fraudulent program. They used to go to the thing every single year, and now they are nothing.
After that game, I got curious, so I went on into the Indiana basketball Twitter circle to see how they were reacting. They are done with Woodson. They want him gone.
Yeah.
They are so done.
Yeah. But every time they hire a coach, they're like, this guy's got it figured out. This is the guy. Actually, I don't know if that was the case I don't know if they thought that about Woodson right out of the gate, but because I was certainly skeptical of that one. Happer's Beam guy writes in, with each passing day, the Venn diagram similarities between Indiana basketball and Nebraska football just becomes more and more one big circle. One NCAA tournament win in the last 8 years, one bowl game in the last 8 years. It just keeps going. Yeah, we could have done that. We could have had this conversation without talking about how Nebraska football is a giant disappointment as well. We could have, but we didn't. That one's on you guys, not on me. We talk about how Nebraska football is a giant disappointment 364 days a year. I don't get the opportunity to talk about how Indiana basketball is a disappointment that many times. Only when the time is right. And now I decided the time is right. We didn't even have to mention that Nebraska football is a gigantic disappointment, which it definitely is. Agreed. It's been a gigantic disappointment, but there are other disappointments too. And yes, the next coach that Nebraska hires, we will think that that is the guy, and he's got it all figured out. It will continue. The cycle will never end until Nebraska, of course, starts winning some football games. Which happens first? Indiana gets to the Final Four, or Nebraska football goes to the college football playoff?
Poll question?
I'm curious, when that hits your brain, what do you think? What happens first?
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think college football playoff first.
Indiana basketball goes to the Final Four, or Nebraska football goes to the college football playoff. Happer's Beam guy follows up. Indiana football beat Nebraska football 56-7. Nebraska basketball has beaten Indiana four straight times, all by double digits. Woodshed. Some world we live in. Yeah, this is the new reality.
Crisscross.
This is the new normal. Which happens first? Nebraska football goes to the college football playoff. Indiana goes to the Final Four, or we talk about the Caitlin Clark story. We get to that Caitlin Clark thing. Whichever one. I guess it'd be Nebraska. The odds would be in your favor to make the playoff. What about go to the semifinals of the playoff? Now
that's a different can of worms.
A little bit of a different conversation. Yes, indeed. Okay. Toasters. Before we get out of here. So the Pop-Tarts Bowl, which is now taking the Duke's Mayo Bowl's position as the most online bowl game. Congratulations to them. I hope they'll make an award for themselves. They decided they needed a redesign on the trophy to the Pop-Tarts Bowl. They will. And they have added a live toaster, a real life toaster to the Pop-Tarts Bowl trophy. And of course, the internet has lost its mind. By the way, the Pop-Tarts Bowl this year will be Miami and Iowa State. It's a pretty big bowl game, for the record. Two teams that just missed the college football playoff. It's a good game.
Good draw.
But so I guess the loser or the winner will put a Pop-Tart into the toaster, and they will take the trophy, and they will toast their Pop-Tart and then eat their Pop-Tart afterwards. I assume this is going to be how it goes. But the question here is why? Why? When everyone knows the correct way to eat Pop-Tarts is to not toast them and just get them out of the vending machine for more money than you should be paying for them at work. And then you eat them because they come two in a bag, and they're more likely than not the cinnamon ones.
Is this worth a quick poll question?
What?
Toasted or untoasted?
Too cliche.
Yeah.
Too cliche. I'm running a straw poll right now. Peter, you are of Pop-Tarts. You seem like a guy who enjoys himself some snack food, right? Mm-hmm. You love Pop-Tarts?
I do like Pop-Tarts.
Do you toast your Pop-Tarts?
I do not.
I do not either.
I'm not saying I'm opposed to it.
But why
like
would you?
I would try it, but I
don't think
I have never
Pop-Tarts-
felt the need to toast my Pop.
The Pop-Tarts have gotten so popular untoasted that I almost forgot that the original intent of the Pop-Tart was to toast it.
Yeah, I guess it was.
I
But now we've kind of evolved past that.
But it's the size of a toaster slot, right? That's it. It makes a lot of sense. Like that's why it's the size of put it in the toaster. It'll melt away. Mustache Adam, I trust him on this. Said untoasted Pop-Tarts are fine, but if you have a toaster available, they become infinitely better upon toasting. Interesting. Mason Daniel writes in, I thought you only ate food how it was intended and served. They are literally called toaster pastries. I may have broken my own rule. I guess that that sometimes it's not all black and white, as they say. I'm willing to break my own rule for the untoasted
food
Pop-Tart.
identity crisis.
Yeah, it's really difficult. Before we take a break, one Nebraska-related transfer portal item. Mekhi Bayer. Remember Mekhi Bayer? Mekhi Bayer. He has signed with Missouri. So the Williams-Nwaneri trade is complete. Now, maybe Nebraska can add another piece on there if they get, what's his name? Kawan Lacey out of the transfer portal. That'd be nice. I have no idea if they're going after him or not, but I know they were recruiting him in last year's recruiting class. All right. We will take a break. We will gather your opinions on Pop-Tarts, and I will tell most of you how you are wrong, and we'll get to the polls. We'll tell you what to watch next on 1620 The Zone. right, Peter, unless you have a comment, I'll let you off the hook on trying to step up for your boy Jonathan Taylor, who inexplicably dropped the ball before running into the end zone uncontested yesterday in a National Football League game.
My only comment is I thought Jonathan was above doing something like this, but clearly
I think everyone who plays football is above it, but it keeps happening.
But then
it happens like 3 times a year.
But then I witnessed the double pass interception, and I quickly came to terms with the fact that the Colts are now just the laughing stock of the NFL.
Yeah, well,
just a hilariously bad franchise that has fallen off a cliff.
Yeah, but if Jonathan Taylor wouldn't have dropped the ball walking into the end zone
they would have gone up by 2 scores.
It would have been 20-7, and I don't know.
I still think they would have found a way to screw it up.
Possibly.
But good Lord, it's
possible.
I'm done with it. I'm done with the Colts for the season. The season's over. Like at this point, just lose out. I
like that.
Start fresh.
I like
blow
when the
it
NFL
up.
fans get to this point and they're
blow
like,
it up, start fresh,
and they're like, "Yep, I think I'll be done with football for this year now."
I'm in pinstripe bull mode, and then I'm done with football until next year.
Just retire it. To the polls at Happer Show on the J-Tech Construction Zone Twitter feed. We have a few of them today. We'll start upon getting the news that Nebraska football will be playing against Cincinnati and Kansas City to start the season next year. We asked, would you like to have lunch in Kansas City on August 28th? 89% said yes.
It's happening.
Great call by you guys. Now, this one gained some traction.
On here and in the stream.
Abolish daylight savings. Yes or no? I actually don't know. So my answer is no.
I phrased it a little. I was a little too vague in my phrasing.
It's actually like
it's not as cut and dry.
Yeah. It's like either abolish daylight savings or keep it forever. I kind of like it how it is. Although I'm very open to compelling arguments for one side or the other. I just want to say that I don't love the idea of it getting light at 9 o'clock in the morning. For people, it's like, oh, wouldn't you really like it if it didn't get dark at 5? Yes, but I would not like it if it got light at 9 because that's what you would be trading. And I don't think people realize that.
If anything, we've had some riveting discourse today.
We have had some discourse. I'm going to say no. 67% say yes. Interesting. Don't know what to do with that.
Bad phrasing on my part, but yeah. Well, I digress.
Is it harder for fat guys to keep their pants on? It appears as if it is.
Overwhelming yes.
88% say yes.
Incredible reply by Stibbs. Yes, because the ladies can't keep their hands off.
Nice, of course. Is the only reason you go to the movies Ryan Gosling?
big leaning no on this one.
Wow, surprising. 82% say no. And finally,
about the 17%?
Are you into the occasional moral victory? Most certainly, I am. 66% say they are into the occasional moral victory. Those are the polls. Peter, are we watching anything tonight? I know it's a Monday night doubleheader.
Beyond the Monday night doubleheader, there's no top 25 college basketball tonight.
Love it.
Nothing. I went to my reliable TV guide, and it's a whole lot of crap. Like just a lot of nothing. Nothing that exciting.
Exciting.
So you get your unnecessary Monday night doubleheader.
I like to do this sometimes. So most attractive game, according to KenPom tonight in college basketball, is Grand Canyon in Louisiana Tech.
Okay.
Okay. That's an ESPN Plus joint. Yeah, it does not appear as if we'll be on ESPN Plus if you want to watch college basketball tonight. They're always over there just hanging out. Texas Tech is playing tonight against Oral Roberts.
That right.
Another ESPN Plus joint. All right, Peter, thanks. Let's do it again tomorrow.
Let's do it again tomorrow.
That is the show. If you miss anything, 1620thezone.com is where you can find it. Time for the crossover coming up next.